Hello everybody, this is the Retro Bear back once again to bring you another exciting episode of Desert Island Games, the show where I invite a fellow YouTuber onto the channel to discuss some of their favourite games in the Desert Island scenario, as well as going through their gaming history and also to help you understand them a bit more when you watch their channel. The premise is very simple if you've not heard it before. As I said, I asked them to pick 6 games which they can take to a desert island with them. They can be their favourite games, they can be games they'll have plenty of time to play in such a scenario. On top of that, I also ask them to take 1 game which they may have played previously, and it will give an opportunity to put some more time into it, or perhaps a game they didn't finish originally or they didn't get on with. And also, because it's not all palm trees and coconuts, to make sure that they take a game with them that they absolutely hate, because at some point they're going to have to play that game because they're going to run out of the other ones. Interspersed with this, we'll be talking about their gaming history, consoles they've owned, which will hopefully bring out some exciting and interesting stories about how they've gone on the way to where they are now, and hope you will enjoy listening to them and will be able to relate to some of them, because let's be honest with you, when old consoles got thrown away or sold or whatever behind your back, it happened to most of us. We can all relate to that. Today's guest is a fellow member of the TNB, so you'll recognise the voice from this channel, contributor to our gaming podcast when he's available, which has always been a bit of a problem lately. We'll get into that in a moment. Fantastic YouTuber as well. Tremendous collection he has. Find some amazing stuff from all over the place, and a very, very nice man to boot as well. So it's a pleasure to have him on, pin him down for an episode for this. It is Rollerxcore. I should be calling him Eddie throughout the broadcast. Hi, Eddie.
Hello, people of YouTube. How are you doing?
People of YouTube. Hey, he's got it in. It is very good to have you on, sir. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Looking forward to doing it, finally. Because we had a bit of a road bump the other day, didn't we? So
yes, we did. Well, you've done this before, briefly, when we piloted it on last year on the podcast, wasn't it? And we thought this would be right. I thought this would be a rather good idea to do properly, but
not like what I said back then. So I apologise if I repeat anything, but
no, that's okay. It's a slightly different format to what we piloted anyway, so it's a bit different. But great to have you on. And let's see how we get on with this. Now, as I always start this off, I'd like to give you an opportunity, if people don't know who you are, to talk about your YouTube channel. So if you want to take us through what you do over there and what things that we could expect to see and what exciting things you upload to YouTube.
So, my name's Eddie, and my channel is called Rollerxcore. So predominantly, it started off life as a way to put videos of me rollerblading back in the day. So that was, it must be about 15 years ago or something like that. So I've been on YouTube for a while, but mainly as someone who's watching YouTube. Really enjoy the platform, absolutely loved it. And I've been probably watching gaming channels for like 10 years or something, maybe a bit longer now. I've seen the community like unfold, obviously kind of made me kind of want to join in eventually. Once the technology got there where it was cheap enough where I could just use my phone and record myself, it's just accessible to anyone now, isn't it, really? So
it is. It's a very good format.
And it is really recommended for anyone just to jump in, because like honestly, such a great bunch of people. It's just, I don't know, it's changed me quite a lot doing the YouTube, really. Because I mean, the other thing that I wanted to do it for was to sort of like kind of like improve myself a little bit, because I was getting a bit of like anxiety problems just before like I started doing YouTube, and I thought, you know what, getting kind of like putting yourself headfirst into something that you find difficult, like chatting to people sometimes. I thought, well, not so much to people, but to like sort of like a room of nothing, because it's quite daunting doing that. That's the hardest thing to get over, I think, first.
It's a lot of people have trouble with that. I mean, it's all right for me because I usually have nobody to talk to anyway, so just sitting there talking to a camera is absolutely fine. I've got Mrs. Bear, but to talk about this in great depth to people, it's a good way of doing it. But a lot of people, like you said, with the anxiety, a lot of people I've spoken to already who've had similar issues and concerns have found it a great way to express themselves and have a platform to do that on.
Yeah. No, it's been brilliant. Like I say, it's really changed me for the better. I mean, it's still not like obviously perfect or anything, but it makes it a lot easier. Life is a bit easier now for me. And and it was just a great way of talking about games, because that's ultimately what we all want to do. I think I've noticed, pardon me, I've noticed a few people on YouTube all say the same thing. We all love our games, but our friends, they may enjoy them, but not quite to the extent of like what we do, where we kind of obsess and instead of taking things back to the game shop once we've completed them, keep them on shelves forever and ever.
We do, yeah.
I think to most normal people that is quite unheard of. And my friends think it's cool and stuff like that, but you would maybe say 5-10 minutes worth of stuff to them, then they're already flipping bored stiff. Whereas for some reason, some people will enjoy what I talk about. I don't know why.
Well, but as you say, when everybody, there's so many people doing exactly the same thing as you say. We buy stuff, we stick, we play it, we stick it on the shelves, rather than put it back, trade it in, move on to something else. You've got to be a collector to understand that.
Definitely.
Most people will just buy stuff to consume it, whereas we buy stuff to consume it and collect it.
Yes.
And
it's a purpose in what we do, isn't it?
Yeah. But it takes a certain breed to understand that. So I have the same problem. I have friends who've been into gaming, probably more into gaming than I was at certain points in my life, but they can't quite understand why I'm sort of amassing this giant collection of plastic.
Yeah.
And I can't really explain it either, to be honest with you, but it's just something you fall into. And if it wasn't for YouTube and this, I've said before, I don't know what I'd be doing otherwise in my spare time. I don't know what hobbies or interests I'd have outside that, because I don't really have an awful lot. I do have a few things, but they're certainly not anything on this scale.
Yeah, I think definitely lockdown has intensified things a little bit as well. It's definitely given us not much to do, and I think that's kind of like why a lot of us kind of exploded doing like videos weekly, twice weekly, thrice weekly,
thrice daily. Some people,
yes. Well, I mean, the thing is, I still see myself more as a YouTube viewer. I'm a voyeur of YouTube, and I'm a content creator second. So for me, I enjoy watching all you guys. I just love it. Unfortunately, I'm slowly getting less time to do it, and that's a bit of a shame, really. But yeah, I try and jump in as best I can. I've changed the way I do my YouTube, because before it was predominantly pickup videos.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was good at. I like picking up games and I love talking about them.
That's what everybody else does. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is, I kind of got to that point where I just felt like I became a robot, like doing the same thing, and not putting the love into the games that I've picked up as much as I probably should do, really. So what I'm doing now is I'm not going to be a game playing channel, but I'm going to be showing what I've played. If I pick something up, I'll show it as a video game, as in me playing it, like in front of people, see what because I do enjoy these live streams, even if not many people go on them or anything, just having one or two people on there and just talking about the game, if they've ever played it before or gone, well, that looks interesting. I mean, that is just the best thing for me. And it's just great to see that live participation as it happens. Not as many people watch that kind of stuff, but for me, that doesn't bother me. I prefer, like I say, I prefer that kind of like one-on-one, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is. I've watched a couple of those that you've done, and they are really, really good. And it's always good to have a channel a little bit diverse in it. I mean, pickups are all well and good, and it's great to do them, and they always seem to get more views than most other things that we do. But it's nice to have a bit of variety on there. So you might want to show a collection off. I know you've done that before as well, and I've done that. And in gameplay, I've done exactly the same thing. And I sort of try to branch out into other areas I'm interested in as well. Just the odd video here and there, just about other things I collect or pick, have an interest in, and do it that way. It's always nice to have a little bit of variety. And you've just gone past 500 subs as well, haven't you? Which is one of those magic achievements.
Subs,
yeah, 505, yes.
If no one knows what that in-joke thing is 505 is a publisher on the PlayStation 2 that's infamous for its hard to find, terrible, but also good games. But the thing is, I actually went out my way to actually collect all of them on the PlayStation 2. So it's kind of like sort of been my thing, because I don't think anyone else is stupid enough to do that, really, other than like the full set collectors.
Yeah. Yeah, but you find that there are little subsets like that. We talk about subsets and collecting, and there's. I mean, I don't mind 505. I think that I put some decent games. It's always nice to find one. Oh, well, you go through your that's a 505 game. Brilliant. I mean, I know that one now because I know you picked them up, and I've heard people talking about before. And it's like 505, and then there's Phoenix, and there's Midas, isn't there, on the PlayStation 2?
Yeah,
the three sort of really
cruddy. When I started doing my PlayStation 2 collecting, I just wanted to have a little challenge. And I did actually start doing the Phoenix one as the one that I wanted to go for. And it broke me. It really did. And there was just even back then, there was way too many terrible games that were expensive. Now, 505 has got terrible games on it, but it's also got good games. And the expensive ones tend to be the good games. Yeah. So you kind of feel like if you're going to be dropping a lot of money for something, you're doing it for something that you would actually use. And it just seemed a bit more logical to change from that trash and collect for something decent, really. So it's
did you ever pick up Car Wash Tycoon?
I did, yeah.
Was that a relatively cheap title for the PlayStation 2?
I don't know what it is now, but I think it was about 20 odd quid. Not an easy one to find.
Well, we were talking about beforehand when you went to the other shop, not Vintage Gamer. They had a copy in there a couple of 3 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
And I looked at it. I thought, I can't remember seeing this game. And I knew it was a Phoenix one. I nearly messaged our friend Sean about it. I know he likes his. And I thought, I thought it was going to be a £1 game or a £20 game. I ain't quite sure what it was.
Yeah.
So I might go back then.
It'll be well worth it. Like I say, it's not expensive, but it's one that you don't see that often.
I'd never seen it before.
But not only that, but they also have Chemist Tycoon as well. So I suppose that is a bit on the Team Hospital side, a bit more, I'd imagine. But yeah, car wash.
Yeah.
Not sure how you can tycoon car washes. It's
it's a strange subject. It's just but
although there is you always see the number one hand jobs in town, don't you? They always get it about. So I suppose that's part of the tycoon, isn't it?
Hand job tycoon, yeah. There's an episode. Very, very much just being about 8:15 on a Saturday morning. Most people have spat their coffee out here and that. There we go. Or just weren't about a bed, one of the two. Did he just say hand job tycoon? Yes, he did. Just said it again. Okay. Right. Well, I always said there will be a link to your channel in the description below. If you haven't come across Eddie's channel before, do go across it. There's some amazing stuff on. He's got such a varied collection. It's a lot of pickup videos on there, but it's good to see him branching out into doing something different. So go across if you've not seen his channel before, and see what it's all about. You will not be disappointed because I've been watching Eddie's videos for at least a couple of years.
There will be a game room tour as well eventually.
You just be
a game room tour that everyone keeps asking me about, and it's like I'm going to be doing it next month.
Yeah, but you spent ages remodeling, didn't you? You just finished and doing it again.
The thing is, when you have a game room, it's always changing, isn't it? It's you can't keep it the same.
Well, yeah. Well, tell me about because I'm halfway through clearing out the other room at the moment and start redoing that so I can put the units in there and hopefully put all the stuff off the floor and in boxes onto that then, and then I'll realise when I've filled all that, I've still got no room for anything else.
Exactly. 6 months later, it'll be like, what can I do now to put more crap in the room?
mate, that's it. Once that's done and once that's full, that's it. Something is going to have to go after that to create it.
Like, no matter how close to bursting you are, you always find room to put something.
I can't. I've had the great warning off of July the 23rd. No, you're not doing that again. This is it. We're doing this. We're going to put all this on the units. It's going in there. If you've got anything else after that, then you've got too much. Somebody's going to have to give. So, well,
yeah.
We'll see.
We've all got too much, haven't we?
I know. Yeah, we've all got way more than we can imagine. Yeah, next is a bigger house. That's the way to do it, but that's just the wrong way to do it. Anyway, let's get cracking with the Desert Island Games section. we always start off with a bit of gaming history and get an idea of where you got your interest in games from, and following that through, interspersed with the games from your list. So let's go right back to the very start and your early influences of games on you, and as to why you are here now having this conversation.
Okay. Yeah, so my first console that I ever had for myself, I suppose, is the Atari 2600. So yeah, that was Fable has it. It was my Christmas present for my second ever birthday. So yeah, I was a gamer at a very young age, supposedly.
Set 2 years old, you've been able to. Yeah,
I do believe that's probably more of the fact that it was a present for my dad.
Yeah.
I think he really bought that for himself. But yeah, it's always been said that was my second Christmas present. So yeah, it's always been in my life. As long as I remember, I've always remembered gaming because of having that in the house all the time. So yeah, I still find it like one of my favorite machines, and I do blast mine on every so often to play it. And people say it's basic. Yes, it is, but I don't know. There's something about the sounds and the visuals that you just can't beat. Can't have it on a flat screen. If you put it on a flat screen, what's the point at that point? It's the glow of this CRT with them graphics that don't quite, even though the square, they're kind of like, it's a little bit fuzzy, bit wavy because it's all through RF. So it's not like a perfect sort of image. And yeah, brilliant. I can't say highly enough of it, even though it's so bad.
Well, I think you have to have had grown up with it,
Possibly,
to appreciate it. I know when I put videos on my channel, talked about it, people have said to me, oh, I don't know how you could play those games because I never played them when I was younger. I've tried playing them and they're just so basic and terrible. But if you grew up playing one of those and that was all you had, as it was for me for a long time, then you become accustomed to it. I said on other broadcasts like this, it doesn't really make any difference what the game looks or sounds like, it's how it plays. If that core element of playability is there and that hook ability is there as well, it doesn't make any difference what it looks like. You're just going to keep going back and playing it and playing it and playing it. And that's what those early games benefited from. They might not look great, but you played them for hours on end.
Exactly. So it's all about, like I say, the hooks and the whistles and the sounds, the effects. It's all like, I don't know, it's really, nostalgic, I suppose. Like you say, that's probably mostly what them sounds are, because I suppose to a lot of people they could be quite annoying because they're very shrill sort of sounds. They're not the most refined of like effects or anything, but
they were annoying at the time.
Oh yeah, amazing. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, it introduced me to like games like Pac-Man, which people say so many bad things about Pac-Man. But do you know what? When you're 4 or 5 years old, like a lot of us were when we first started playing that, we knew no different. Exactly. We never went to the arcades and played Pac-Man and gone back and gone, "Oh, this is terrible. This is not like the game." But I don't know. That the gameplay is still there, like you said. It's just a bit strange looking, and there's a lot of flicker and everything's square. Well, not even square. It's like oblong, isn't it? It's not quite. It's not what you remember.
And they're called video wafers as well, which is quite funny. It is, you read the back of the box, you say, collect the video wafers. What the hell are video wafers?
Yeah, not many of them boxes have survived, I don't think, have they?
Not many of them, no. But so what games did you remember playing back then?
So, yeah, as I say, Pac-Man was one. Frostbite was another one. That one, I must have had about 4 cartridges because it always used to break. And I don't know if you've never noticed, but 2600 games always seem to have like really dodgy screws screwed in the front of them. Now, because mine kept breaking down, I just thought it was like a repair job that my parents tried to do to try and fix it. But when collected, I see that quite often in these 2600 cartridges. So I don't know if it's sort of like done in the factory where they've really cheaped out and tried fixing it with like a dodgy screw, because they're like over the labels and everything like that.
I noticed that because I noticed that at the time when I was younger. You right in the middle of it, you go, oh, that's weird, sort of thing. And I've got a couple, I think, that are sort of showing that as well. So
yeah, I just thought it was something like my parents did, and I thought they broke it. And I really enjoyed that game. But yeah, another like massive nostalgic game is Smurfs, and it was probably the first game that had like that memorable soundtrack.
It's brilliant. It's truly that was a tune that drove my mum, God bless her, mad. Absolutely, she hated that.
Exactly. I mean, when we say soundtrack, it's like a 4-second like soundbite of like the Smurfs theme tune,
yeah,
but like,
over and over again.
Exactly. And I can remember always like pressing like the reset button because as soon as you let go, it would start again, and you could sort of like remix it a little bit.
But it's a great looking game as well. It's one of the better looking games on the system. I mean, you say it's very, very basic, very limited memory, but to make a game that colourful.
Well, that was it. We used to play in a lot of games that had like black backgrounds, where it changed up all the way through it.
It did. Yeah, it was a sensational game.
And then bats that come to you and do that squawking noise. That was amazing.
Oh yeah, and that's it. Yeah. Oh, it's like this is coming. Well, I played it again a few months ago. I was like, this has got so much in this.
Yeah.
And you think that if we've had, as you said, basic games, and you think you play. Actually, there's so much this game. It looks great for a 2600 game. Okay, the sound's a bit repetitive. The sound effects are good.
Yeah.
Because of the way it loops around and goes quicker each time, it's incredibly challenging to see how far you can get.
And when one of the first tests that you do is a flipping gate as well.
Yes.
Usually the first thing you die on because you're like, how do I get over this thing?
Yeah.
You have to do the really strangest jump ever in gaming.
Yeah, jump up and then jump again. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
It took me a long time to work out how to do that again after Tony's not playing. I thought, how can I get over this bloody gate? And I thought, oh, hang on, I'll go do double jump, haven't I? And it took me a while to work that out.
Ingrained in the memory, that was. Yeah, I was actually playing a game recently called Sydney Hunter, which is made by a company called CollectorVision. And near the end, you get to play this arcade machine, and they replicate Smurfs.
Oh, really?
Not Smurfs, but you have to complete it to get through the game. And it's a pretty much accurate rendition of that, but just with different characters.
Oh, wow.
Like the 2600 version. So, yeah, really cool. But, yeah, that really brought floods of nostalgia back doing that as well. So, But, yeah, other game, Chopper Command, amazing. Sort of like Choplifter clone, I suppose.
Right. I think I played that one.
Yeah, it's sort of like an orange car. It's an Activision game. Activision, back when Activision was great, but still knocking out games left, right, and centre, even back then.
That's it, because I remember Activision prominently from that era. And then when they started doing conversions of arcade coin-ops in the late 80s to home systems, they really made a hash of a lot of them. And obviously they're a big name again now because of the Call of Duty stuff, and that's rolled through there. Yeah. But I always associated Activision with that particular system, and Keystone Capers, and that was another classic game. We used to love.
Well, that's it. I think if you know Atari, the top games that everyone remembers as Atari games, more than likely are Activision games, like Adventure. I'm sure that's Activision, isn't it?
I don't think
it's Atari actually.
No, it is an Atari one. Yeah, I think it is.
That is a great game. Again, that's another great one. Try to put them bridges over to like cross over, get away from that dragon that's chasing you.
Yeah. Warlords was great. I used to love Warlords as well because we could all sit down and play that. All four of us, our family, could sit down and play that with the paddles and.
Well, that's the one thing I didn't have on the 2600. The paddles.
Oh, really?
I've never properly used them, so I still don't have any paddles now. I need to sort that out really, because it's something I've always wanted to try. And Warlords is that game because I've played a sort of a modern version of it on the Amiga, and I used to play that quite a lot. Really good game, like just strategize, trying to like make sure your base don't get blown up by the person across from you.
That's it. I've tried playing it on the PS2 compilation. It's just not the same with a joypad.
Well,
it's just not the same.
The Amiga was, and I don't know, was that? Well, did you actually use the mouse on that one? Actually, I can't remember. But
I think the mouse would be more. I can see why that would work better, but just trying to use that with a D-pad or an analog controller, it's just you haven't got the same feel to it as
analog
the old one.
Okay, surely, like because you can angle to where you go to.
I know, but with the paddle, I know we illustrate this visually, which nobody else can see. But when you're going like that, it's a bit easier. But with the analog stick, it just doesn't quite feel the same. You don't feel quite.
Well, I suppose like the analog pad. The paddle sort of replicates the base, doesn't it? So what you're turreting around.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, it's so many. I mean, I always found loads of games that everywhere, wherever we went, it was just like we must have had about 40 or 50 of them, at least. And when I look back at what we had so many great games for it, and there were also a load of games that I never got round to playing initially. So it'll be nice to eventually
that's what's good
find
about
carts for
Atari 2600. You could have a day of just blasting through games like every 10 minutes because they're short games. They're not really things that's going to like really take your time up or anything like that. Even like basic 8-bit games, they still, you have to sort of like learn how to play. Whereas the 2600 games, it's the game is there. Like there's not much to learn. It's just getting better at the game that you have to like master, and that's the difference, I suppose. But yeah, another good game that I played a lot of, and again has got great music. Pressure Cooker. I don't know if you've ever played that game before.
I've never played that one. No.
Oh God, that I got addicted to that game. Well, still would be now, but it doesn't work. It's one of the cartridges that doesn't work. Yeah, like you basically get told you're working at a burger restaurant, and you have like these foods that are coming across, and you have to make a burger up in a certain way. And so you get your lettuce that comes across, which is just basically a block of green, and you either have to catch it or like push it back. And then you've got to make your burger up, which goes into a little level underneath.
I'm with you, yeah.
Like, it scrolls down like a conveyor belt. And then, you've got to kind of do that. And it's like all timed. You've got to kind of make sure that things don't get in the way. And, absolutely love that game. And again, great music.
It sort of sounds like Burger Time, but it's not quite like Burger Time.
Not Burger, no, it's nothing.
It's completely different.
It's more like a time-based. I suppose it would be more... There is games a bit more like it now. I'm trying to think what it's called, but there's a game that's you kind of like cooking in a kitchen, and you've got to like kind of make things to order, and it's like a multiplayer game. I can't remember what it is right now. It's not a game that I've played, you see. So
Overcooked.
Yes, Overcooked. I'd imagine it would be the baby brother of that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's quite a few like that. There's one on the Wii which is called Order Up, I think it is. Which is that's quite a good little game. That I mean, trying to find Overcooked. I can't find copies of Overcooked anywhere. Don't know what it is because I got recommended to play Overcooked on the Switch with Mrs. Bear, so I keep trying to find it and can't find it anywhere. So
that's why I've not played it, because I've heard it is like more of a 2-player game, and it's like finding someone that would want to play that. I don't think I could do that really. Like I say,
I don't think
gamers.
I don't think Mrs. Bear wants to play it, but she doesn't know that yet.
The thing is, once you put it on, I bet you would play it, and I bet you'd get hooked on it.
Oh, so absolutely.
I've heard it's really addictive.
There's 2 of them. There's a sequel as well, I think.
Not sure what the difference is. Probably just more the same, isn't it? Really.
I would have thought so. Bigger restaurants or something like that. So that's a 2600. Yeah, I mean we've had that mentioned before, but yeah, it's just a great system and so many great memories of it.
Well, a lot of us are all roughly around the same age, isn't it? And it's usually like one that people start with, or one that they get handed down. So it's a great starter system for kids, I think.
I think so, and again, I think if you're into gaming, you've got to experience playing on a 2600 at least once in your life just to see what it was all about.
Exactly. And I think as well, like parents now, they should realistically give their kid a 2600, play them little simple games, or like the packs, the Atari 2600 packs that you can get on the PlayStation 4.
Yes.
Give them a controller or the Switch or something like that, because it's all one button gameplay, very simple, and they can learn how to like play games eventually.
Yeah,
for that.
I agree. That's a good way of doing it, and the more people should give it a chance, because that's a lot of people just look at it and think, "Oh no, that's too basic for me." But you know, and of course, it all started there. If it weren't for that as a home system, then okay, there was the crash, almost killed it at the same time. But
we didn't really get that though, did we?
No, because I remember we were still buying, probably after the crash happened, they were just chucking a load of games over in. We were buying them cheap in places like Asda.
I was going to say, I can remember seeing 2600 games well into Super Nintendo lifetime at Asda, like on the shelves, for about 20, 30 quid as well. It wasn't like they was trying to throw them away. it was still like nearing a full retail price.
That's right. I saw him in Toys R Us probably around about the same time. I bought Ghostbusters from Toys R Us. I bought Kung Fu Master from Toys R Us.
Nice.
I know we talked about it earlier. I saw before we came on. I saw Double Dragon on there as well. I didn't buy that one, but they were still releasing new games on the 2600, and they were still being sold at retail. I think I paid $14.99 for Kung Fu Master.
Cool. It's
good game, though.
Wasn't it?
But it's strange, but you should always do that. So after the 2600, where did you go next?
So obviously, I think I was getting to outgrow the 2600, and I can always remember looking at the classifieds back in the day in the local Telegraph back pages. I don't know if anyone that's under 30 probably won't even know about these. But back in the day, our eBay was the weekly paper that came through.
Yeah.
And chose an advert and went over to this lady's house, and she gave me a Nintendo Entertainment System, an NES, and it had like a stack full of games, like probably about 10, 20 games. So I was like proper setup right at the start. So yeah.
Can you imagine finding a deal like that now?
Oh, I know. Especially because the games were all like the good, like traditionally good games, what people know the Nintendo for. So there was the Castlevanias, Marios, Metroids, everything that you could probably think of. There was pretty much in there, and it's pretty much shaped my gaming today. And there was another game in there that we'll probably talk about later as well. So
we may well do. Yes. Yeah. So when you say given, did you pay for it, or were you actually just given?
Oh no. Well, my parents paid for it because I was probably about 7 or 8. But I just remember going with them, and my mum was going, "Oh, is this okay?" And I was like, "Yes, this is amazing. Let's get home right now." It's like I've got 2 buttons on my controller. What am I going to do with them?
I know. But it's such a revolutionary controller as well, because up to that point, you used to playing games with 1 fire button, weren't you? Now you had 2. It's like, how's this going to work? So you were hooked on that straight away then, I guess?
Oh, instantly, yeah. I think I put Mario on, got killed straight away, falling into holes. Just because, like, what is this gameplay? We didn't have anything like this before. But then it wasn't just the games. It was everything that was around it. Nintendo Mania was absolutely huge back then. Like, I just remember getting, like, magazines, like putting away for the Club Nintendo magazine, getting the sticker books, talking about like games all the time at school. It was amazing. We all had Nintendos. Some of us had Sega Master Systems. I didn't until very later on, where I can remember getting my Sega Master System from QVC. It was
QVC?
It was like I said, it was well after the Super Nintendo. When I got my own Sega Master System. It was a Sega Master System 2. Got it from QVC. It was 50 quid, I always remember, and it came with that god-awful handle controller. And I was like really looking forward to playing it until I touched it, and I was like, tried playing it, and everything was playing back to front. And then I realized you have to turn it around, don't you? Because it's like a right-handed stick. But yeah, we're not talking about Sega Master System because realistically that was like a blip on my gaming, really. But yeah, the Nintendo, absolutely loved it. So many, like I say, all of my friends had a Nintendo, so it was constantly swapping games with each other, experiencing new things, and yeah, it was just amazing. A great time.
Because that was so different to what we had around here. Because again, having a conversation with other people in the community, no one I ever knew had a Nintendo. Everybody had Master Systems, or then they moved on the Mega Drives. That's nobody ever had an NES. They had Super Nintendos, but that was their first experience. Nobody had an NES before then. I don't know why it was, but you do find, like yourself, all the people sort of say, "Oh no, it's all Nintendo around here." And it's really, really strange.
Like little pockets, isn't it? That's around. But I think as well, it's probably because like one person will get something, and then their friends will experience that, and they'll get the same. Someone else will get the same, and it probably goes into the world a little bit like that. Maybe, I don't know, because no one wants to get something that no one else has got. Because back then, we didn't consume games like we do now. It was you'd get a game, and you won't get a game again to your next birthday.
That's right.
Christmas or a special event or something like that.
I tell you what was more interesting was the fact I remember seeing a lot of Nintendo games in the shops at the time. I was always fascinated by them, and the graphics, obviously, but also the fact that they were ridiculously expensive as well.
Yeah.
But despite the fact that everybody I knew having Master Systems, I never saw any Sega Master System games at all. So I could see the Nintendo games, and on the other side, I can see people with lots of Master Systems. I couldn't put the two together. You know, if you've got a Master System, where are you getting all the software from, and why hasn't anybody got a Nintendo? Because that seems all the shops seem to have a Nintendos now.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is with me, Master System, it was a bit exotic, but it just didn't have that Nintendo ness to it. Everything was just felt a bit static. Didn't have the depth of Nintendo games. And we used to have one at our local youth club, and that was my experience of it. It was something I enjoyed playing, but I didn't want to take it home. It was just enjoyable just to play there. But yeah, Nintendo, however, it was just, again, it just elevated gameplay so much more, like to a different level that we never played before, like actual levels to games. Like what was that all about?
Yeah, because you were sort of used to looping games on the 2600, or just things just going around again and getting quicker and quicker. I mean, there will be occasional sort of change of screens and things like that, but with the NES games, there's more to this than just a couple of screens. It's like long levels and password saves and things. That was completely different as well, which we'd never experienced before.
Oh yeah, I mean, the thing is as well, like I actually didn't get into the Zelda. At that time, everyone who talks about Nintendo was always like really obsessed with Zelda and stuff, which is something that I didn't find the love for until quite later on. Really, I was a Mario and Castlevania kid. Really, absolutely loved them games. I was very much more into my platformers. Really love my platformers. I like my RPGs, but I think because I was dyslexic and I didn't realize at the time, because dyslexia wasn't a thing when we was kids. It was couldn't read well. That was all it was.
That's right.
So I loved playing the game, but I just didn't kind of get them. Not until quite later on. But yeah, it's just the Nintendo. I just love the whole visuals. Like I say, it was the marketing. You didn't have the same marketing. It's strange because a lot of UK people were big into Sega, but I can't remember much Sega magazines other than like sort of like Mean Machines. And like I know there was a Sega mag and stuff, but they didn't have like Club Sega the same level as you had Nintendo.
No, you're right. The magazine I remember is Mean Machines. I remember getting a little annoyed when that came out, because I wasn't anti-console at the time, but I remember being very focused on the 8 and 16-bit computers. And then you'd get like a Mean Machine started coming out, and it was the CMVG guys mostly behind it. I think that's where it came from. And I thought, oh, they've started promoting these consoles. I don't like these consoles. And but yeah, I mean, Machines was a great magazine. I used to read it, or borrow my mates and read it all the time. It was fantastic. But yeah, there wasn't much Sega. The only time I can remember Sega really marketing anything was probably around the time of Sonic 2. You had the barber's chair advert.
It was Mega Drive and Sonic that really just turned up the notch, didn't it, over here?
That's
but right. By then it was kind of like I say, Atari, it was just about the gaming. Whereas like when Nintendo came out, it changed gaming to like a lifestyle more so. That's how I felt, at least anyway, because there was Nintendo stuff everywhere. You could have like little figures and stuff like that at the time. You didn't have a little Pac-Man figure at them time. The thing is, looking back at like on YouTube, you see like a different world, because most things are like Americanized, and Pac-Man and everything like that was huge over there. We didn't have that over here. They had like the Pac-Man fever and stuff like that, and everything was commercialized over there. And we missed out on that, really. So it was only when Nintendo came in that we felt that sort of like coming in.
Yeah, because you had the TV, you had like the new Super Mario Brothers Super Show, and there was Captain N, the Games Master, which I remember watching as well. I know there was Pac-Man.
Nothing like the games that we was playing as well.
Yeah, nothing I know there's a Pac-Man cartoon, there's a Donkey Kong cartoon, but I guess that was going back years. This is when we really started seeing mass media
did
marketing.
You see that on UK TV then? Because I can't remember them, but I don't know if that might be my age.
Yeah, New Super Mario Brothers Super. I know
I mean,
Captain N.
the Pac-Man ones, because I know there's Pac-Man, but that's a huge. It's only since watching YouTube that I've actually known about them.
I remember Pac-Man. I do remember Pac-Man being shown over here at some point.
Okay.
Because it was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
Oh, right,
So
okay.
I've got quite a good knowledge of that. But I know that I remember seeing it when I was younger. But I also remember seeing Captain N on ITV. I think it was, might have been on Whack-A-Day, or the Wide Awake Club, or whatever it was called back then. Timmy Mallet and Michaela Strachan, that era. But I remember they were on Saturday the morning television for the kids, and I think Super Mario Brothers Super Show was on at the same time as well. So
that was the Super Show, was when they actually had the actual live action characters introduced in the episode, wasn't it?
That was it. Captain Lou Albano, the former WWF manager,
Was he?
He was Mario. Yeah.
No way.
I can't
remember him, but I don't know where he's from or.
Well, he was also in Cyndi Lauper's "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" video as a dad. That was no, not as Mario, no, but he was the Rock and Wrestling connection at the time. This is getting on a tangent, which is great. So we do tangents on this as well. You'll be pleased to know, not just a podcast, but this. And he was in that, and she was part of the Rock and Wrestling. She was making appearances in the WWF at the time, so he did a crossover on that, and he ended up being Super Mario as well for a bit.
Cool. Well, talking about WWF, I mean, that was where I kind of hit the sort of like commercialization of WWF, where you had like games that were things that you watched on TV, but you could then play them. That really came into it on the NES. That's where it all started from, because you'd have the WWF games that were terrible on the NES, but it didn't really matter because you was playing as Hulk Hogan that you saw on TV, and it was like that was something that you never had before again.
I remember seeing that advertised. I think, wow, that game must be fantastic.
Yeah.
And I've played it years later, and it's like, it's not all that good.
It isn't, but at the time, you didn't know any better.
No, you didn't. I'm looking now at licensed games that came out. It's the same as any other system as well. Most of them were really good, and some of them were really terrible. But that's the way it was. But yeah, it was stuff you saw on television. It was all of a sudden now in a computer format, and it was console format, I suppose, really.
And it was, and as well with the NES, it was when I first started learning about like trading as well. But it was kind of like set me up for all this. Back then, we used to go car booting. My parents always used to go car booting every weekend, and there was the car boot that we went to. It was in between Scunthorpe and Lincoln, just in this like really remote like sort of RAF base.
Right.
There was hangars full of like car boots or like resellers and stuff, and there must have been 3 or 4 different video game vendors, and you'd go in with your game and you'd have like for £3.50, I think it was. So if you had an unboxed NES game, you could get another unboxed NES game. If you had a boxed NES game, you'd get a boxed NES game, sort of thing. And if it was for a different system, he would then weigh up the odds and see if it's worth it for him or not. But yeah, games were not like one's £5 and one's 200 quid like it is nowadays.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
You could probably swap like, I don't know, FIFA for a Castlevania or something like that. It would be you're probably more pleased to take the FIFA because everyone was buying FIFA. So
yeah, I'll swap you my copy of Golf for RoboCop. Yeah.
Like some really sought after game that's like really rare now. I mean, the stuff that I've had through my hands through like the car boots and stuff, it's crazy to think back now what they're worth. It's mental.
Yeah. Have you got much of an NES collection now? Or?
So that's what got me into collecting originally. I started collecting NES. So I was back, about 10, 12 years ago. I had stopped gaming and stuff like that. And I started watching YouTube, and someone called Angry Video Game Nerd, whatever he's called, came on. He was talking about NES, and it just like, oh my goodness, sparked back that nostalgia. And I started buying NES games, and it was boxed NES games because you could get them for like £5, £10. I can remember paying 50 quid for the first NES game, and I was like, that's mental money. And yeah, I had about 200 boxed NES games at the point of before I sold it all off. So yeah, proper addiction, loved it. But I kind of got to the point where I didn't want to spend 100 quid on games. It was like, I just thought that was just madness.
Yeah.
And I thought I could double, triple the money by selling it all off in one go. And I did. And I used it to buy like things that I was actually using, went on holiday and stuff like that. But then the addiction came back and we are where we are now. But because of where I was, now my NES focus is going for American games. So it's easy to get. I'm not going to just go import them or anything like that. I'm not really like focused into doing it. So I'm like now just picking up the games that I want to play a game, or like ones I've not played yet and love to try, because in America they had like 3 or 4 times the games that we did. So there's loads that we missed out on. So yeah, I collect and then I do it unboxed as well because of like money and stuff, because I'm not going for an NES collection. But yeah, I've got about 50 games maybe.
All right, okay, yeah.
And then I've got about the same again for Famicom.
Yep, there's another aspect of it as well, isn't it? The Japanese collections over there as well. It's interesting with the way people collect and they go for certain different things. I mean, I'm with the NES. I'm quite happy to have loose. I don't know, maybe got about 20, 25 NES games myself. I think 3 of those are boxed.
Yeah,
but I'm happy to have 3 box ones because they're reasonably nice condition ones. But I'm happy with loose cartridges. I'm not really bothered if there's a cheap enough one, then I'll have it. You know, so. Well, it's not a system I connected with.
Me, if I got one boxed NES game, that would just open up the floodgates to get more. Now, I can't do it. It's got to be unboxed for me.
It's like the recovering alcoholic. I'll just have one quick drink and that's it. Before you know it, you've bought 25.
I know exactly what I'm like. It would be that, yeah.
So pitfalls of a collector, you have to reel it in sometimes, and you have certain addictions, don't you? And it's certain things you're going to be drawn to, like that one. You end up sort of, I'm going to be a bit careful on this. So, not a system I ever really connected with, the NES, but I appreciated it a bit more over the years. It was never one of my favourite systems. I never liked the look of it. I thought it looked a bit dull.
The thing is, I don't know. There's something about the look that I've always loved. The grey, black, and red. I don't know. That's really, for me, I don't know, a really appealing colourway.
I like the cartridge slot. I think that's really, we push the cartridge and put the flap down. I like that. That's good.
It was like an event to play it. It's not just pushing it in and then press and play. It was like you actually had to go through a few steps before you could actually press the on button.
Yeah, it was like a top-loading video recorder, if people remember those. That's the very first video recorder we had. We pressed the button, the bit put your tape in came out the top of the unit. So you put your tape in and pushed it down again. It's very much like the NES, that sort of thing. But I just
that's what they kind of replicated, didn't it? Because, like you said, because of the big crash in America, the Famicom came out, but they didn't want to risk having another system that looked like an Atari 2600. So they remade it to look like a VCR. The games look like American VHS tapes.
Yeah.
So their boxes are very similar to their boxes because they didn't have the clamshells that we did over here.
And of course, the thing was, rather than call it with the Atari, the video game system on it, it was called the Nintendo Entertainment System. Yeah. I know it came with the robot and the zapper. It was to set it slightly differently than the computer game system.
Yeah, I think it was more marketed as a toy.
Yeah.
Rather than a gaming system.
So the 2 systems you've had, first of all, was one that started everything off and nearly killed it, and the one that rescued it, which is it's really sort of interesting to have. So after your NES, which you then moved on to a system I know very well. Yeah.
So it wasn't strictly mine. It was the Amiga 500 or 1200 because it did eventually get upgraded and everything like that. So absolutely, that really, again, opened my mind to gaming. I wouldn't say all the games were better than the NES, but there was so many of them. You just had different experiences all the time. It was brilliant. So basically the Amiga came into my house because my parents have their own business and they needed a machine to do the books or whatever. So when they did that once a week, it was left free. And I would be on it playing games constantly. My uncle is a pretty big geek, so he he had in his house. He was the one who recommended the Amiga to my dad as a system to come in to do the bookwork. But he also had that connection of he had a few games and everything like that, and so got a few games, and I kept it more and more. I was stopped playing my NES and was playing the Amiga more. Even though it went back to a joystick and one button again, it's very strange. Oh, it like back, and I can always remember going, "Oh, I'd love to be able to put the NES controller in so I can have two buttons." I always remember thinking that, but I was like, it just never worked. You can't. There's no logical way to plug it in, was there?
That's right. That's right. So it's a completely different port, wasn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, and what really ignited the love for the Amiga, because I don't think I would have probably played that. I wouldn't have played it as much if I would have had to buy the games, because there was not really that many places you could buy the games. At least I didn't know anyway. But we had what was called Computer Club every Wednesday or Thursday in our local like hall, not like a town hall, but like just like a little, I don't know what it was, but I always remember going there, and it was hundreds of people with the Amigas to bring it over, bring the monitor over, and then suitcases of games. It was basically Napster, but before Napster, it was like physically having to go around and like file sharing. So we all had the Amiga on, copy of X copy, and what we'd do is we'd even have like, it was very organized. We all had our own little folders of like games that we actually have in our suitcases. So we would either flick through what they've got or go through like the list and go, right, okay, you've got Arabian Nights. I'll swap it for Zool. You just create swaps that way. And it was amazing, great time. And you'd pay like 50p a disc or something back then as well. So it wasn't like cheap, but it wasn't as much as buying a game for 30 quid. So I think that's what kind of stopped me playing the NES, because I'd have so many more games on the Amiga. It was unreal.
I think, as I've discovered going along, we had similar things where I was, but little pockets, as you say. Not the first person to say to me, it was a place that people went to once a week or once a month, and a load of people turn up with a load of games and saying you want this copied or you want to swap this, and that was it. I think I was the only person who was buying Amiga games at one point. But you can get them. You could get. I mean, WH Smith. You can get them in Boots of all places. Boots the chemist used to sell computer games. That's where I used to buy games.
And Boots, where I was like it was about the size of a corner shop. It was it was minute. It wasn't the biggest of places. So
it tended to be the biggest stores, but where else would you get them from? Mail order was probably the only way. Special Reserve.
Special Reserve,
yeah. But if you got the magazines, they'd have all the adverts for all the places in there. And I used to buy games that way. Well, I used to give my mum the money for them, and she'd pay them on by card and order them that way, because that's, you either wrote a check out. I was too young for checks at the time. I never checkbook myself, or you had to pay by credit card. Which again, I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember how that worked. Those years ago.
I think a lot of it would have been more. You'd probably more likely to send a check away, and then you'd wait a week or so, wouldn't you?
If you were lucky. I've told a story about waiting 5 weeks for a game before now when it came with the wrong one.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that now? Ordering a game, waiting 5 weeks, and then they send it's the wrong one. Never happens now, does it?
No, I can remember getting some PlayStation 1 games that way. I can remember Tomb Raider coming in. It took forever to come, and I'm sure it came out before the release as well, though.
Right.
Even though it's still, I suppose it would have been, I don't know. It was a bit of a weird one, because I always remember finding it in like my parents' kitchen cupboard. And I was like, I don't know, plate or something. I was like, why is Tomb Raider there? I thought it hadn't come yet.
I mean, it's
the Amiga, like,
that's great.
Like, I did have like physical games. There was only a handful. I always remember having Syndicate, and I just loved like having their big boxes. And back then, the smell of them boxes were really strong and pungent. I always remember thinking Amiga boxes smelled like, I don't know, something.
I never got into smelling them. I'll be honest with you.
It's like new magazines and stuff like that. Like if you open one of them, they're always like quite strong smelling, and it was kind of like that, but a little bit like plasticky at the same time.
Right. I can't remember, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I just remember how glossy the boxes used to look. Sometimes you get a really sort of fresh. You occasionally find them now. You find some really, really nice boxes, Not just Amiga ones, but also for that the 8-bit stuff as well. I found one today, ironically, because I was going to an absolutely immaculate box. No creasings on it, no rips on it, no dents. It was absolutely pristine, and it just took me back. And I remember I had a number of big box Amiga games like that. It's like just remembering the sharpness of the cardboard, the glossiness of the cover. Yeah, just
it's
takes you back.
To get back into it, really. But yeah, when you do, because like I know a lot of people complain about like the Nintendo cardboards collecting. Oh, I don't want to do it because they're always minging or whatever. But it's when you collect it and you get them good ones, and it's like, wow, this is like 20, 30 years old, and it looks almost new. It's like, I don't know, you can't replicate with that like a Mega Drive box. I don't think.
No, I don't think you can.
Yeah,
no, I don't think so.
Surviving cardboard is something unreal, unworldly. It's like having an alien artifact that you found or something.
More importantly, is why you can find ones that look like they've come fresh out of the factory, and why is it you can find ones that look like they've come fresh out of a tumble dryer? I've got just no idea how some get in that state and some don't. But then again, you curse people now when you buy plastic cases, whether it's PlayStation 1, for example, that tends to be the ones that are worst. And think, what the hell's somebody done to this, or even a PlayStation 2 or an Xbox case, which has got bits of plastic missing. So what have you done to this? How have you got this?
My dog and everything.
Yeah, how's it got in this state? Cardboard you can understand because it's not as sturdy, but this, why is it so easy to break all these cases? What have people done to these things? What have they done to this manual?
DVD style cases, a lot of them have been chewed on. There is so many bite marks in some of them.
Oh, you always make marks in the pickup video. Someone's had a bite out of this, or they sort of bite the front cover, or oh dear me, it's very, very strange.
Another Amiga game that I had as well, but the actual physical one was Outrun. Game was absolute trash, but it came with the soundtrack on cassette.
Yes,
and I always remember playing that, and like you'll get to the end, turn it over, I want to listen to it again. It was amazing. And like, you didn't have that in the game, and I think that's why they put it on cassette, because they did such a bad job at it.
There are so many bad versions of Outrun. There really was. I always say it was such a shame that no one actually got a decent conversion. I think the Spectrum one's not too bad, but I mean the Amstrad one's even worse because the Amstrad one's got no sound.
Yeah.
So that they supplied the cassette with that, so you had the cassette with it to make up for the fact there was no sound on this game.
I mean, the sound is the game, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Soundtrack is like unreal. I mean, I think I've said that quite a lot. Like a lot of the games I really love, it's always about the soundtrack. The soundtrack's really what carry the game off for me.
Yeah, and especially the Amiga ones, there's some great music on those games as well. So, and there's some great graphics as well, and technical marvels. Like it's like Shadow of the Beast 2. Beautiful to look at, wonderful to listen to, but it's a terrible game. People say it's a horrible game. It's just the first one's even worse. I don't know how they managed to make a sequel. I really don't.
I mean, the thing is, everyone bought it, didn't they, just for that first level, just to walk through and do a couple of punches and just listen to that soundtrack.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to play it for more than half an hour because it was just not good. But
it's better than Barbarian anyway. So,
but it's a great system. It really is. Yeah. I'm lucky enough to own a 500 and a 1200, and a load of games. Most of them backups, as we say. But
backups I would love to get more and more backups, because for me that is where the nostalgia lies. Like I say, most of my gaming was through backups. And the thing is as well, it was the PD scene, the public domain scene, that was something that I kind of intensified it a little bit. Sometimes good games, sometimes not good games, but they all had like a bit of soul to them.
Did you ever play Merv the Merciless?
No. Did
you not? Go and look that up on YouTube when we finish talking, or tomorrow or whenever. But that was a PD game. It's given away free with, I think it was, it might have been Zero magazine. And it's a top-down. I think it's not a platform game, but you move the character, but the screen moves around, so you got to keep on the screen.
Okay.
And it's got this really stupid soundtrack, which is so weird. The Neighbours theme tune keeps cropping up at certain points as well. But it's just absolutely mad, and it's got passed around at school because it came through in a magazine, and most people didn't buy the magazine because I think Zero wasn't a great magazine anyway. And it's got passed around, and I picked up a bundle of stuff ages ago, and it was on a dual disc. So if you had an ST, you'd get the one game. If you had the Amiga game, you get Merv the Merciless. And I was so thrilled to get it because it came with it. Well, I bought an ST before Christmas last year, and that disc was in there with Merv the Merciless on. I was like, fantastic! I've got this game again after all these years, so I can sit down and play that now.
Cool, right?
Merv the Merciless.
There's another. I'm sure it was on Zero as well. There was another game that was like sort of like, like the cover disc games. They were never long. There was never, but there was always pretty cool. It was called Quick and Silver. And basically, it was sort of pre-Turrican or at the same time. It was made by Factor 5, except there wasn't called Factor 5 on this game. There was actually called New Chips on the Block, I think. I'm sure that's what it was called. But
that sort of dates where it's come from, then, doesn't it? That.
Yeah, and it's the first home appearance of Sonic on that game, Sonic the Hedgehog, right. Because they sort of like stole assets and stuff like that to make the game. It's very cool, like I say, very Turrican-y, but it was sort of like tongue-in-cheek version of Turrican. So perfect for a cover disc, right? Yeah. So it was only like 1 or 2 levels, but you had like Goombas and Mario that you jump like killed and stuff like that. And there's like I think Bub and Bob is from there, from Bubble Bobble.
Yeah. How did I miss that then? Because that would have been around the time I was really into the Amiga and getting absolutely right in the midst of my gaming on that.
But the thing is, I'm sure it's Zero, like you say. It was one of them Amiga magazines that you never see. So it's really hard to find that cover disc. But back in the day, everyone had a copy of it and played it all the time. Because even though you got cover discs, people still copied them because the games were that good. Like what was it called? It's Cannon Soccer. Can you remember that?
Yes. Yeah, I remember that one. Yes, yeah.
So a mixture of Sensible Soccer and Cannon Fodder. Amazing.
Yeah, but I've never heard of that one. I'll have to try and track that down.
I mean, that's something that you miss nowadays. That like back in the day, when a game came out, they would do like a special demo or event sort of thing to advertise it. It wouldn't be just like a first level that you'd play. They would actually change stuff up that would be very unique for that demo, and it got people really excited in getting the game. And you don't see that anymore. That would be really cool to see, just like a one level of something that's
right. Yeah,
Christmassy-fied or something. Like that was quite a big thing, wasn't it, back in the Amiga days?
It was, and you would get that, and you'd be excited about it, and then you want to play the actual game. I said before to somebody, the one I played, which I really wish I got at the time and kept hold of, was I played a demo of Venus the Flytrap.
That's something I've only seen recently. I'm sure I've never played that game before.
I played a demo. It was completely different to anything you sort of played before. But I understand that's probably getting around. Well, if it's not already, it's around about the sort of somewhere between the 50, 100 quid mark at the moment.
Oh yeah, I've seen that price. That was a few years ago.
Yeah, so it may be even more now. But it was so unique at the time, and it also kicked me to not get it then. I mean, my Amiga disappeared a long time ago, so it would have been a moot point. But I really enjoyed playing that. I thought I must get that game. I never actually got hold of the proper copy of it, or even a copy of it.
Yeah, I think there is like a sort of like a cheap version of it, because like you used to get ones that were like in like little blister packs, and I'm sure you could get that on. I'm sure you could. Can't remember. I'm sure I've seen a cheap version of it before.
But
GB later.
Even with all the backups I've got now, I still haven't got a copy of it. I've got loads of sort of discs I've acquired over the. I'm gonna have to make a proper hunt for that one. And
I'm sure we know a couple of people that could sort that out.
Oh, I'm sure we do.
I'm pretty certain Mr. Bads has got it. I'm sure if we could put a call out to him,
he's got everything that's worth money.
Exactly. And if not Mr. Bads, then Cine Steve definitely will have.
I'm pretty sure Steve would have as well.
I think he's got he must have every Amiga game ever imaginable.
Yeah, he's got some amazing stuff. And again, having watched some of the things he's like, oh yeah, I had that, or I remember seeing that advertised. Actually, I remember seeing adverts for that, but I never actually got it. So that's it. Well, yeah, I love that system as well. So it's a big part of my gaming history, certainly. So from the Amiga, we then move into console territory again.
Yeah, so I think my dad was sick of me playing my Amiga so much. He wanted it at the week, because he would go from the weekdays when I'd be using it to the weekends when he needed it for work. So yeah, he was like, "You need to get another console again." And the Super Nintendo was announced. The thing is, a lot of people remember their timelines like vividly, and I'm really bad with that, because I think with me, I used to mix in between consoles all the time. I could trade them for one another and then go back again. So I really have a struggle thinking the first time I originally got certain systems, but I always remember the Super Nintendo, because I can remember there was a big thing about it coming out, and my dad really wanted me to have it. He was like, "Oh, you really need to have this." And I was like, "No, I still love my Nintendo. There's still loads of games that I've not played yet, and until there's more games for the Super Nintendo, I don't want it." And I was like, it's crazy thinking that now, that I actually thought that, but no, I did. And it was a couple of years later that I actually got the Super Nintendo. And I can't remember if any of my friends had it at the time. I'm not, like I say, timelines were really bad for me. But yeah, when I got it and I got Super Mario World, oh my goodness, it was, again, took gaming to a whole new level that the Amiga never had. There was secret rooms everywhere. Secret, like you went onto an overworld, like a map. I can't remember many games like that before. There was on the Nintendo. Obviously, Mario 3 had it, but not quite the same way of like exploration, really. And yeah, that just amazing.
I remember seeing that for the first time. I've never been a massive Mario fan, but when I actually sit down and play the games, I really find myself getting into it. And I didn't play Mario World 2 years later, because I didn't have a Super Nintendo. I think a couple of friends of mine had, I know certainly one of them had it. I remember seeing them playing and go, wow, this is really good. You know, makes me want to sort of play it, which I never did. But I played it years later, and yeah, it's just, I remember at the time, everybody raved about it and said how good it was and how much depth there was to the game as well. And it was the best game ever made. And
well,
yeah.
like I said, like I used to trade a lot of my games all the time. And I think that probably would have been the one game that I had through the whole of my Super Nintendo without selling it off. And the thing is, like, now we would play a game and then that'll be it. We'll play the next one. Super Mario, I remember for fun deleting my saves so I can go through it all again and 100% it all in one day. And it's because I knew that game back, like the back of my hand. It was just crazy.
I used to do that as well. Like you just find if a game makes that connection with you, then you know where you're doing and what you got to achieve. You'll go back and play it again and again and again.
I do miss having that like knowledge and thirst for a certain game. That I don't have that anymore. I can't nowadays it would be brilliant because you have like achievements for doing all that stuff. But I don't have that patience to really go through the game. It's I get to the end of the game, maybe do a bit of the extras, but then I'll be going on to the next game. And yeah, it's not quite the same as like when we was kids. We knew, like I say, knew it back in the hand. Try and give ourselves like little challenges when we played the games as well, didn't we? So like, we'd be like, "Oh, I've never been up there before. Let's try and figure out how a way to get up there. Is it even possible?"
Yeah.
Like try and glitch the game and stuff like that.
That's it.
Things that we did. But yeah, I missed that level of sort of enthusiasm. But yeah. So many good games. Final Fight, I remember having that and absolutely loving it. Super Castlevania really just extended that world. To be honest, I missed out on the Castlevania 2 and 3 as a kid. And then I went into Super Castlevania and I was like, whoa, that is a massive jump.
It's good. Very good game, that. Very good.
It was like, the thing is, I can remember as well, like having the whip and like, you if you press the whip and like didn't like let go of the button, you could then use the control pad and the whip would just kind of like move around like freestyle.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes.
And it was like, how is this not staying straight? It's like everything is like all jiggly, and never saw anything jiggly on on a computer game before. It was like, yeah, blew my mind. And then Metroid, oh my goodness, I love Metroid on the NES. It's such an atmospheric game, but Super Metroid, getting that big box and the guide and everything like that. It was just like, it's just another, again, so good, just trying to explore the whole world of it. And that was, again, a game that you would see something and you'd be like, can you actually get up there? And that game really just like made it for me, because you'd be rewarded by little secrets, like an extra bit of like weapon or something like that. And then at the end of the game, you'd complete it and it'd say you've completed 85%. So there's more things to find. Amazing. Like, you actually showed like your progress, which I don't think there was many games like that before.
I think you're right. I always used to annoy me that you go through a level and you think, I've been everywhere and I still missed something. How'd that happen?
Nowadays, like I say, nowadays, if I played game, that would be exactly it. But back then, it was like 85%. We'll do that again, and you just play it again straight away. Crazy.
The Super Nintendo, I played an awful lot on friends of mine. Super Star Wars, Super Tennis, anything with the word "super" in front of it seems to be quite prominent with the Super Nintendo. But Super Star Wars, Super Tennis, UN Squadron, Street Fighter 2. The one that sort of blew it away for me was Donkey Kong Country.
Oh yeah,
because I remember seeing that, and I actually thought when I first saw that game that was the end for me for the Amiga. I didn't want to sort of be cruel to it, but I thought the Amiga, I can't see that you produce anything like that. It looks absolutely fantastic, and I just felt there was a massive shift around that time away from home computers and computing towards console gaming, and that's really what happened after that. There was no, I know you got PC gaming, but once something like that came out, to get that level of graphical prowess on that console, it was just like mind blowing. It really was.
Well, I think when that came out, I flocked to the Mega Drive quickly. I think I traded it back, and I can remember a bit of a story. I actually got on Games World Live, if you can remember that, on Sky.
Oh, you got that, did you?
Yeah, I was on it playing games over the telephone. It was like mental. I've got a record. My parents had a recording of it on VHS of them filming me on the telephone with my friends around, and I can remember like getting into the final of that episode, and the prize was the Donkey Kong Country crate.
Oh, really?
You remember that? And my parents were like, oh, they told me afterwards, I was like, oh, we really didn't want you to win it because we'd already bought it for your Christmas present. It wasn't the crate. It was just that game and a Super Nintendo again, so I could have alongside my Mega Drive. But yeah, I can remember like getting to the final. It was a quick draw, like question round, and it was like one of the questions was, "What is this game?" And being, I don't know what age I was, probably about 13 or something back then, my head just went like complete mush. I mean, it is the same now, to be honest. And my mum was like screaming the other end, "It's Shadow Dancer, it's Shadow Dancer." My mum knew what it was. She knew what it was because it was like one of my favorite games at the time.
Oh, that's great that she knew the answer. That's brilliant.
Yeah, but I still would love to get that Donkey Kong crate again, but they're bloody expensive.
Imagine if you had won that though. And then had another one, another Super Nintendo on top of that at the time. I mean, goodness me.
Yeah, Mega Drive and a Super Nintendo at the same time. That was ultimate times for me then. Yeah, like as well, the Super Nintendo, that introduced me to import gaming, because that market that I went to, that I kept telling you about, that Hemswell market, it was called. If anyone's ever been there, they probably know how good it was. Like I say, there was import sellers, and I can remember getting, there was two games, Parodius, Super Parodius, and a game called The Rocketeer on the Super Nintendo.
Yep.
And Rocketeer was absolutely dire, but I kept playing it all the time. It was like weird. You could play like 2-player race with each other, with like a biplane going around like sort of like a track. Well, he's not even a track. It was really bad, like graphic, weird. I don't even know why we'd play that all the time, but we did. But Parodius, oh my goodness, absolutely loved that game. The graphics on the box, well, it's not like the graphics, the image on the box was just like it was just so colourful and mesmerising. And then the form factor of the Super Famicom cartridge boxes would just, I just always loved them, and that's what I'm sort of collecting now. I love the Super Famicom because of them days.
That's I remember the film The Rocketeer, but I don't remember the game based on it.
Yeah. There's two. There's actually a Rocketeer on the Amiga as well, which is by Cinemaware.
Oh, it's Rocket Ranger.
Oh, right. Was that? Oh, no, because it was very similar to that, though, isn't it?
Rocket Ranger was, when it came out, was more of a homage to King of the Rocket Men, I think it was, which was a 19, I'm going to say 40s weekly serial that turned up in the cinema.
Okay.
Which when I was younger was consistently shown on BBC television as part of the children's sort of holiday programs, like Long Life Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe and things like that. And that was what that was based on. And I think shortly afterwards, they made the Rocketeer, which I think was again loosely based or a throwback to King of the Rocket Men. So, but Rocket Ranger was all about fighting Nazis, and it's always good. Yeah, it's always good.
I didn't really enjoy the film. It wasn't like amazing. But
no, it wasn't great.
No, in fact, no one really talks about that anymore, do they? It's a very forgotten film, isn't it?
It is. No one talks about King of the Rocket Men either, which is really disappointing. I used to love that when I was a kid.
I've never really heard of that before.
Have you not? No.
Yeah.
No. I don't think it's ever been officially released on DVD or. I remember years ago looking for it. You can find them on eBay, but obviously they weren't official copies on eBay. They were rips of whatever they could find. But did I see that one come back one day? I don't think it will do though. But now you mentioned the Mega Drive as well. So is this around the time you got involved in that?
So like I say, at that time I was flitting between the consoles. I'd get bored and get a Mega Drive, and then get bored, get a Super Nintendo, and then it would go backwards and forward like that. And the big game for me, I always remember Sonic 2. That was like, I think that was the first game that had like a release date that we was all excited about. Sonic Tuesday, which was it October or November? It was just before Christmas. I always remember because I got it on Christmas Day, and then remember
November, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I can just remember I can remember the date coming and going, but like still not having it. And then like I hope they've bought it, like going all over my parents' house trying to look for it. I think I must have found it or something and gone like sigh of relief, yes. And then Christmas Day come. You couldn't speak to me that day. I was just playing Sonic 2. Amazing game. It was just really, again, ramped up everything that the first one had.
I think you're right. I don't think a game has ever generated that much interest and hype and actually given a release date as such. Games just got released.
Yeah, there was like either out or not. Like again, I think areas would have a certain amount and another area wouldn't.
Because you always thought films got a release date, albums got a release date, but you never got a release date for a game before like that. It was there's so much hype about it. A friend of mine had a video he got from Mean Machines, and there was a sort of rolling demo of the Chemical Zone for Sonic 2 on it, and he lent it to me. I was like, wow. Yeah. This is just, it's the same sort of reaction when I saw Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo. It's like, wow, look at this. Look at this guy. It's really, really. I watched that video for ages, rewound it. It's just like the graphics, the speed, the game, the music. Oh, it was just.
Well, that's it. There was like little details that were moving on the screen, like sort of like when you go into the casino zone, and there'd be like the bar and whatever cherries spinning around, which didn't need to be there, but they was unnecessarily. But then it just made the game. It was just so many little things happening, like little creatures running around the forest when he was in the forest zone. Yeah, just really cool.
Yeah, it was a heck of a game, that one. And it's dead cheap to pick up now. I know they made loads of them. Obviously, there were so many. Much worldwide demand for it, but I thought that game would have held a little bit more value.
It is getting a bit pricey. I think it's about 15-20 quid now.
Is it really?
I have seen it for that. Whether or not that place was right, because you know when you get a game, you don't really look for the prices again too much because you don't need to. So what I've seen out and about, whether or not then prices are right, been about 15, 20 quid.
Yeah, because I had a copy. I had a couple of 2 or 3 copies of it, and I gave one to a friend of mine as a joke for Christmas a couple of years ago, because he had one for Christmas all those years ago, like you did when it came out. And I thought I'd just send him one for Christmas the one year as a bit of a joke, because there wasn't any trading value on it. And I had another copy, and there wasn't much trading value a couple of years ago as well. I thought, I'll give this to somebody else. So I just moved it on really, really quickly. But I'm surprised it's gone up in.
Sonic 1, that is like 10 a penny. Sonic 3, about 30 quid now.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough. I got Sonic 3 in a bundle ages ago. I didn't realise how much that was actually worth, and I now have Sonic 1, thank courtesy of Big Game L, because for some reason I'd never had a copy of Sonic 1 in my collection. I had a Mega Drive back in '94, but since I started recollecting, I never actually had a copy of it. So Al donated me one of his many, I think. So.
Well, saying that, like it was Sonics were probably the last games I got in my Mega Drive collection as it stands now. There wasn't many games I've had after that, and it was only like just before lockdown, or maybe right at the start of it. It was Gumtree. I got a Gumtree advert. In fact, it was during the lockdown, because I can remember everyone was saying was doing like one of these live streams, private live streams with like Al and everything, and everyone was saying like, "Oh, I've gone on Gumtree and found all this," and I was like, I didn't even know Gumtree was still a thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Yeah.
So I went on it, and while I was on the phone, I was like, "There's a listing." So I was half drunk, and I was like, messaging the guy, "Is this still available?" And in the morning, I just zoomed over and got the Sonics. He had a few other games, and I was like, "Have you got anything else?" And he brought out another 30 Mega Drive games. And he was like, "Well, I did put these up because I just wanted to see how these other ones went first." And I was like, blimey. I tried playing them all, but it was like, I don't know if I can let them all go, because I'm still playing a couple of them. He was like one of them really hard guys, but like really nice to chat to. And it's like, you don't want to like take everything if you're still playing it. Well, sometimes you do, don't you?
Yeah.
I'll give you 30 quid for everything, mate.
Super Nintendo or Mega Drive?
Super Nintendo. I think because it was my first, and just so many more memorable games. Like I say, it introduced me to the import gaming, and Parodius, which is one of my favorite series of all times, like as a shooter that's sort of like cute and unique. For me, I like games that have that like unique sort of like look, things that are like just like the Call of Duties and stuff that they just sort of replicate the world. For me, it doesn't really interest me. It's something that's got to be hyper unrealistic, and you can't get any more unrealistic than flipping flying penguins and men flying on a paper aeroplane.
Depends where your imagination goes, Eddie, to be honest with you. I can imagine that quite comfortably. It's all right. It's my sort of game. That I've never actually played a Parodius game, I must be honest, but
you need to do it. It's rock.
I need to.
You'll get your ass. I mean, I don't know if I've actually completed it, to be honest. I did play it not too long ago, and it just wasn't happening.
I've probably got it on my emulator, so I'll have to at least try it that way anyway and see how I get on with it.
It's that music as well, proper bubblegum, like earworms.
Yeah. I like stuff like that, and catchy tunes and things that'll just stick with me. That's exactly the sort of thing I look for in that. Okay, well, we've gone nearly an hour and a half. We haven't talked about any of your games to Desert Island yet.
We're supposed to be doing a quick one, wasn't we?
We see how it goes. That's probably the first time ever we've actually not got within the first hour and got with your games mentioned. So let's quickly switch over to that then.
Right.
So we'll do some of the games for your list. So your first one goes actually through a machine you mentioned already.
Right. Yeah. So again, in that big pickup of games, I picked up this game, and well, not this game. It was the first one in the franchise, and that was Mega Man. Now, the game that I'm going to be taking with me on the desert island, if I'm ever going to be stuck there, is Mega Man 2. Because even though Mega Man was good and it was my introduction to the series, Mega Man 2, it added more bosses, more like advanced gameplay, and the music. Even though the music on the first one was good, the second was just even better. It's sort of like rock music, and again, even though I've completed it quite a few times and I can't do it every time, it is that hard. Just the whole color the whole everything keeps me happy. And that's if I was to be stuck on a desert island, you don't want to be like playing some kind of miserable, colorless game. Has no music. You want something to keep you going, and Mega Man 2 would be that game for me. It's actually a game. I played Mega Man back in the day, but I never played any of the sequels until I started collecting.
Right, because they're quite difficult Mega Man games.
Oh, very difficult. Yeah,
that's why I don't get on with them, because I've tried playing a few of them and they're just way too difficult for a man of my limited game playing ability. So I tend not to get involved with them. But again, it's a sort of game, as you said, it's ideal for Desert Island, because if it does give you a bit of a challenge, that's what you want, isn't it? You want a game that's going to sort of test you and keep you occupied for a considerable period of time.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, the thing is, back when I started collecting again, I went for all the Mega Man games on console and completed them all. Took pictures and put them on Retro Collect. Say, look what I've done. And now, if I was to play it, I've been trying to go through them all again on the Mega Drive. I keep saying Mega Drive collection. It's stuck in my head, isn't it? Mega Man collection on the PlayStation 4, and I've gone through them all. I'm at number 7 at the moment, but I'm not going to lie. I've been using save states because I can't play it the same way as I could before. And that's why I think it would be perfect. Another reason why it would be perfect, because I would like to, if I'm stuck with ultimate unlimited time, you want to have something that's going to test you. And that really is. It's going to be, I might be able to complete it once, but can I do it without dying? That'll be the next challenge that I would have to set myself.
That's it. It's the best way to do it. And do you think you mentioned that about not being able to complete it the way you used to have new save states? Do you think because it's an interesting subject, your game playing skills your actions are slightly not what they were before?
It is that, and it's a little bit of the time I'm trying to complete them in, because I'm trying to do a few in a go and try and get to the next one. I don't know, my patience isn't quite the same as it used to be. So I would be like, I'd get frustrated, and then I would go, next time around I play it, I get to the point where I died, and then I'll do the save state. And if I die again, I've got that. I don't have to repeat all that time before. So, like I say, when I first started collecting again, I literally had a GameCube with a couple of games and an NES, and that was it. I didn't have a 360 at that point. I'd already stopped. It was the NES that kind of brought me back into playing games again when I was about 28 or something, 29. So I'd had like a period of like 8 years of not playing games really at all. But then I'd have this game, and I knew I'd loved it. I didn't have many other games. It was like almost like I was when I was a kid again. So I'd be playing it, can't get past it, then play it again, and I'd do it perfectly. But because my gaming level was getting better and better, the next ones wasn't as hard that next time around.
That makes sense.
But Mega Man, absolutely love that. It's again, the music is fantastic. And talking about Captain N, I've got a Mega Man tattoo, and it's the 8-bit Mega Man going into a wormhole and coming out as the Captain N Mega Man. So
right.
So like looks completely different. He's not blue anymore. He's green. Oh, hello, Fidget.
And your cat in the background, isn't it?
Yeah. No, he's just jumped on my lap. He's wants something, I think.
Oh, right. Okay, yes. I don't think we've had Mega Man 2 before, or maybe not had a Mega Man game at all on Desert Island Games. That might be a first for us. So that's a good one to have. But again, I like the way people pick their games. You know, I say games. I don't say favourite games. I've tried not to say favourite games or a top 6. People have given it a lot of thought, like you have. This is the sort of game that I want to put time into, and it's going to give me a challenge, and I can set myself little challenges to keep going back and playing it. So it's picked for exactly the right reasons. So.
Well, I think it's quite hard because it's easy to get into that rut for your favourite games. And Mega Man would be up there, but the thing is, it's not just a favourite game. It's got that challenge that's going to create I bloody can't speak. Longevity.
Yeah.
So that's again, so perfect little choice there. I think.
Yeah, I like that. Right. Let's. I tell you what. I'm going to skip 2, 3, and 4 on your list. Okay, because I think that's going to be a bit more. I'll prompt you. I'll prompt you. It's all right, because I think they're more relevant to what we're going to talk about shortly. Okay. So you did mention that, and again, unusually, because we haven't sort of touched on this subject, and again, anybody who will be on future episodes, again, this applies to any game on any format, anywhere, and at a time. And I think because we talked about this early period, sort of late 80s, early 90s, it fits in with a couple of arcade games that you mentioned, which will be on your list. So we'll do those in this section, and then we'll tackle the other 3 when we talk about those systems in a bit more detail shortly. So you requested 2 arcade games, which is great. One I know an awful lot about. One not really my sort of thing, but I'm sure there's a very good reason why you're taking it. So the first one on arcade game that you wanted to take with you.
Right. Okay. So the arcade game would also have been introduced to me with that NES bundle. So I don't know if that might be a bit of a clue for anyone. Another Capcom game, funny enough. Ghosts and Goblins. So again, I had that in the bundle back in the day on the NES. And I always remember loving the artwork, but then like getting to a certain, like not very far and absolutely getting murdered. I just couldn't play it, and it just frustrated the hell out of me. And I didn't really put much thought into it. And it was when the Amiga format was coming out. I think it's from one of the Amiga magazines, at least anyway. I always used to see adverts after advert for Ghosts and Goblins in there. And it looked amazing, like the gothic sort of artwork and everything like that. And I was like, I remember that game from somewhere. What was it? And I always remember it was on the NES, and I can remember pulling it out and trying my best to get further. And I don't know that the artwork reignite my love for it. And I don't know if you've noticed, I like my challenging games, even though I might not be very good at them.
That's a good thing. I firmly believe that. I just haven't got the patience for something like that, so I'm completely different.
Well, I love the fact that I've not completed Ghosts and Goblins the way it should be, because obviously everyone knows you have to do it the 2 ways through. You get to the end, and then it says, I can't remember what it says now, but yeah, basically the princess is another castle, or she changes into the devil, doesn't she? That was it.
And, and you get sent back to the very start, don't you?
And then you have to go back and you have to get a certain item to complete it. So I've not actually done that. And I think going onto a desert island, it would just hopefully influence me enough to actually go and finally complete it. Because like I say, the patience isn't quite there at the moment, but I do have a quick blast of it every so often. And the arcade game, for me, probably actually not the better version actually, but the graphics, the sound, and having something like an arcade to bring back that nostalgia of a time once lost, going to the arcades. Absolutely love going to the arcades. We used to go to a lot of like seaside towns at the weekends, and used to play Ghosts and Goblins there as well.
It's a game that again, it's really challenging, that game, really challenging. But I love how it looks. I love the music in it. I remember seeing it for the first. I thought, wow, this is like this. It seemed really different to anything else I've seen, and Ghouls and Ghosts probably as well. I thought that was graphically a massive step up, and it just looks absolutely fantastic. When that came out as like was it launch title, one of the early releases to the Mega Drive, I think it was.
I believe so. I mean, I completely missed that. I don't think I actually saw that properly.
And all together. The big sort of screenshot they put in the magazines was the sort of one boss fight, this giant monster, and you got Sir Knight, and I was like, wow, this looks just fantastic.
Yeah. Again, like back then, I think because the name repetition, my dyslexia and everything like that, Ghosts and Goblins, Ghouls and Ghosts, I just thought they were the same game. Like, it was very hard for me to understand that it was actually a sequel. It was something like I realized later on. I just thought like one was just a better version of the other because I would play it somewhere. I think I played Ghouls and Ghosts at the arcade first, and then it was like on the Mega Drive a lot later on. But I can remember seeing the adverts, and I've just thought there was the same thing.
I was waiting for the sequel to come out. The third one was been ghouls and goblins, wasn't it? You had ghosts and goblins, ghouls and ghosts, and you should have had the goblins and ghouls. That would have been, I don't know, slightly different.
It's a shame we've not got a proper true sequel. It really is. I would love to see that. I mean, you got Super Ghosts and Goblins. I actually completed that one. I completed that on Nintendo a few years ago, and yeah, that was really hard as well. Changed the jump mechanics completely, but still, for me, it's still the original. And I would, like I say, getting stuck on an island, I'd love to be able to stand up instead of sitting in a sofa, bit of arcade stick action in your hand, and trying to complete it properly. I'd love to do that one day on an arcade machine.
It got, if I remember, the conversions were pretty good as well. I know the concept before. I think I've got the. I think I've played the. I might have played the Amiga one. I know I've played the Commodore 64 one as well, and that looks pretty good. It's a bit more squashed graphically, but I still think it plays pretty well. But they all got decent conversions, I think. But they're all rock hard games. Oh, rock hard.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play the easiest one, I'd say it's probably like the Ghouls and Ghosts one, at least anyway, would be the Master System one, because you can change your direction of your jump in midair, but you can also fire upwards.
Right.
And you've got shops halfway through. It changes it up so you can actually buy health halfway through.
That's the Master System version. Okay, cool.
The Master System one, yeah. I mean, obviously a massive graphical downgrade, but I think the sequel is actually the easier one anyway.
Okay, I'll have to keep an eye out for that, because I do like with Master System games, and that's certainly one I'd like to add to it. But yeah, I like the choice. It's a great choice. It's an absolute classic for most people. Somebody sooner or later you've played a version of it at some point and decided, yeah, that's way too difficult. But I admire anybody who stick at it and keep going to the very end and get to it. I've seen gameplay at later levels, and I'm like, how can you do something like this? Just watching it just makes me sort of start sweating and getting annoyed, because I thought I'm never going to get anywhere near that ever.
Well, I'm starting to get more and more back into them kind of games, especially like having video game challenges that we're doing on like YouTube and stuff. It just, I don't know, it gets that competitive nature out of me. What you don't get it when you're just playing on your own sometimes. Sometimes like you'll get frustrated and you'll just go, right, I'm not playing it anymore. But if you've got a reason to try and get past the bit that you died the previous time, like for a challenge or someone else is like challenging you, I don't know, it brings back how we used to play it back in the day, because you go to the schoolyard and go, oh, where did you get to last night on X game?
Yeah. Or how did you get past that bit? Or...
And half the time you'd lie to them, and you'd find out these crazy levels that your friends have told you, and you're like, I've not got to that level yet.
How do you get there? Yeah. It doesn't
like,
actually exist.
The ice palace with like a three-headed dragon in Mario. Like, what? Where's that?
Mind you, I don't mind playing games that are ridiculously hard if I'm having a good time getting a little bit further each time, like R-Type or Truxton. Truxton been playing on the Mega Drive emulator recently. I don't get very far with that, but I keep playing. I'll sit there for an hour and a half playing it and just get a little bit further each time, and I'm not getting frustrated, where I think, maybe sort of 30 years ago, I might have thrown the joypad against the wall and stormed off and not had so much patience with it. But now it's like, I don't really care if I can't get very far with it. I like to try and get a bit further each time.
Well, that's it as well. You don't even have to play it for more like 10, 15 minutes. You could just have like a 1 credit run and see how far you get. And then it's just like, I don't know, woke you up for the morning. Because I had this like phase of playing like Sega Saturn shooters only when I'd woke up.
Right.
You get a coffee, Sega Saturn game, shoot rock hard shooter, try and get as far as I could. And then that would just like, I don't know, give me the energy for the day.
I used to find that, playing a certain game, or before you go to work or something like that, just to playing a bit of a game, or just to sort of turns the brain on, gets you a bit more awake and got to think about stuff and gets your reactions going.
Shooters that are really hard. It gets the blood pumping, it gets you frustrated. You're like, oh, what? I could have got past that. And yeah, I think they're the perfect like energy like boost that everyone should have in the morning. Forget Red Bull energy drinks and sugar overloads. Get some Darius or Truxton on the go instead.
That's it. Yeah. Right. So yeah, I like that choice. That's a great one. And your other arcade game, which I don't know much about. I've got a copy. I've got a copy of it on the Super Nintendo somewhere.
Yeah, this took a lot of time from me. I think a lot of other people would probably choose another certain game that's very similar to it. But what I was thinking is I need to get a game that's endless. There's no true end, really. It's only like sort of like kind of trying to learn new tricks or something like that would make it extend the life of it. So I thought a fighter would be a perfect thing, like a one-on-one fighter, because yes, you can complete it and everything like that. But once you complete them games, you then go and choose a different character and then try and better that character and stuff like that. Yeah. So everyone's probably thinking, oh, it's going to be Street Fighter. You mentioned Super Nintendo, obviously Street Fighter. Yes, I played. That's probably one of my most played games ever. But it's actually Killer Instinct.
Interesting choice.
Yeah,
I always get Killer Instinct and Primal Rage mixed up. I don't know why.
It's probably that digitized look, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah. I need to have some sort of line of defense when it comes to that. So yeah, I think I'll take the digitized approach.
Yeah, I mean the thing is for me, over Street Fighter, if I go into a room with Killer Instinct on full blast, I just get such a nostalgia overload. Like that sound is like the arcade for me. I think that was the height of the arcade when Killer Instinct came out. Like Street Fighter warmed it up and everything. NBA Jam actually was the next one.
Yeah.
And then Killer Instinct. Oh my goodness, I've spent probably the most on any arcade machine on Killer Instinct, and it was Orchid was my character of choice. And it's not what everyone's thinking. the 2 points in particular that everyone always thinks of. It's I just love doing her 46, 48 hit combo. But oh my goodness, there's not something satisfying about like doing like this repetition of like moves and making sure that you hit everyone perfectly so you can get it to the end, and then making sure you get that free fireball at the end to complete it. Oh my goodness, amazing. Perfection in video gaming. But like there's only a few other characters that I ever perfected after that, because I would literally only play as Orchid. It would be Jago would be my next one, and then Combo would obviously, they were the ones. It was always the characters that could do combos and stuff like that really would captivate me on that game. But like I say, for me that was the ultimate arcade machine. If you went into any arcade machine, you would hear that one above every other. You'd hear
I don't remember seeing it in the arcade, mind you. Again,
really.
What year was this? 94, 95, something like that?
Must be about mid-90s, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. Mind you, I don't think I was going to arcades. My arcade experience was probably a little bit earlier than that. So last time I sort of remember when we were going to an arcade playing game was probably at the sort of early 2000s.
Yeah,
but I don't remember seeing Killer Instinct.
I mean, 90 was probably when I first started properly going to the arcades. I was 8 years old then, you see. So I couldn't really reach them any before that. Reach to the top of them. So yeah, like that started me off for like 4 or 5 years later. That's when I started to hone sort of like my skills, I would have said.
Right.
And then I played Killer Instinct competitively. If I saw someone on it, I would come and go, can I put some money in with you, and then kick their ass. It was amazing. I mean, obviously I won't have that joy in the desert island unless I make a little creature with coconuts to try and play the game.
Or you find a disused volleyball that floats by or something like that.
Yeah. Come play Killer Instinct with me. Come on.
They could have a go. There might be a monkey or something on there, or a chicken. You never know.
Professional Killer Instinct monkey.
Yeah, that's it. You could teach the monkey to play Killer Instinct. Be like, and then bring it back to the mainland when you're done. It'd be like King Kong, but not quite as the same impact. I have a monkey that can play games. Really?
Yeah.
yeah. If you stuck 12 monkeys in a room with an arcade machine, eventually they'll end up being completists on Killer Instinct.
No, impossible. Not if I was there. But the thing is, with me, like I've kind of fallen out of love with fighters. It all stems back to that patience thing. Even though, like with a shooter, you learn how to get better with that. With fighters, I just can't. I've not got that same level of patience as I once had to learn the moves and how to do it properly. And I'd love to be stuck on a desert island to give me that patience back, because I've got nothing else better to do than learn how to get these combos how I used to once do it. I've tried it recently on the Super Nintendo, and I've got halfway to a like 20 hit combo. I can't quite pull the full thing off anymore.
I've just got this vision of you sort of standing now on the beach side with this arcade machine, going through all these different combination moves, and yeah, it's a very strange image. But yeah, again, picked for the right reasons for it. It's not a game I can comment on, to be honest with you, mate, because I'm not really a fan of that genre, and certainly not a game that I remember playing a great deal of. I remember being a lot of hype about it at the time, and the digitized graphics, which we were already into. We had Mortal Kombat before then, hadn't we?
Well, this was sort of like the mixture between the Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. I'd been addicted to Street Fighter first, and then it was Mortal Kombat, and then when Killer Instinct came out, it was like it's the speed of Street Fighter, the sort of like spectacle of Mortal Kombat, and like the gruesome and finishing moves, modern fighter that was all mixed together. But then with again that extra level of arcadiness with the combo breaker and like just all these voices that was constantly coming out. Again, I think it's because it was like trying to think who did it, but like a pinball manufacturer, they was one of the ones that helped make it. And they,
Williams.
I always think,
Williams or Midway Williams.
I know Rare was the developer, wasn't it? But I think Midway helped with it or something, with publishing it or something. But yeah, like because of that, the sound was just like, it sounded like a pinball machine, because again, they were there to grab your attention with sound.
Yeah.
And it
that's right. Like that. Yeah, because pinball machines when they go into sort of demo mode, have got a lot of loud noises coming out of them, sound effects, which should sort of draw you in, because you go, what's that? When you walk into an arcade and you'd hear it. But from what you're saying there about Killer Instinct, it sounds like it's exactly the same sort of thing. It's when you hear, when we had the Simpsons arcade, that was probably the Turtles as well. If you walked in an arcade, you'd hear the Turtles theme tune playing from somewhere.
Yep.
And, there must be Turtles in it, or the Simpsons, or whatever. So
dun, 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 dun. Someone putting a credit in for Simpsons.
That's it. Oh dear, that takes me back. Yeah, so I mean, arcade games, great choices there, mate. That's lovely. Let's drop back to your gaming history then, where we left you with the Mega Drive and Super Nintendo, flipping back between them two.
Yep. So obviously, at that point, the next iteration of consoles were the big battle between Sony and Sega, the PlayStation and the Sega Saturn. And I just always remember in the magazines looking at them with amazement. But again, I was a kid of the arcade, and Virtua Fighter and Sega Rally was coming to the Saturn. Yeah. And that was a must. I had to get my Sega Saturn. But not only that, but it was like, who is this Sony company trying to muscle in, trying to make games? What they know about making games. Although I did play Ridge Racer, and that was one of the first games that was coming out. And it did kind of, that eventually kind of broke me a little bit. But until then, I got my Sega Saturn in the first week from Blockbuster. There was a Blockbuster across the road from me.
Yeah.
And I remember walking over, getting my Sega Saturn. I'd been working for a couple of months beforehand, trying to save up for it with my dad, working the weekends. Yeah. And I think I saved up like 200 quid, and my dad put the rest of it towards it. And absolutely, yeah, it was incredible. This machine, this big box, because it just felt so much bigger, so much heavier than any of the systems before. And it was just pumping out some incredible graphics.
It is a beast. I'll give it that. I just tried to pick it up with one hand. Yeah, it is quite heavy, that one.
Yeah. but yeah, like people talk about like, oh well, Virtual Fighter came out and it wasn't quite the same as the arcade. Yeah, but when you've come from a Mega Drive and a Super Nintendo, this was like, what is this that we've got in our living room? It was amazing. It was like we knew it wasn't arcade quality, but it was so close to it. It was unreal. I mean, obviously they remixed it and made it like the arcade, didn't they? Eventually,
Yeah.
and then when Virtual Fighter 2 came out, they really knew how to sort the system and make it. It was, again, back then I was really into my fighters, so the Sega Saturn was the system for me. It was like Marvel Superheroes, which is, I suppose, like almost a precursor to sort of like Marvel versus Capcom as people know now.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So what your opinion on the PlayStation, or what was Sony did, was very much sort of mine at the time. I remember seeing and reading about the PlayStation. I thought, well, what experience has Sony got? Sony make televisions,
Exactly.
video recorders.
Get our little sector.
Yeah, Walkmans. Yeah, why are they making a games console? But when it came to the crunch, I never knew anybody who had a Saturn.
Yeah,
everybody had PlayStation. I actually did when I was at college at the time, because I'd have been around there. I actually did one of a marketing project as part of one of my BTEC module, and I actually did my that on Sega. So I wrote off the Sega at the time and asked for all this information. Send me some stuff, and they sent me a load of information packs back and some free stickers and posters and what have you. And there was lots of stuff about the Saturn coming out, and I remember reading about it in. And using that as a body to put the next generation of systems coming out. Sega are going to be bringing out the Saturn, and that's why I knew about it, but I never knew anybody with one.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, that was the downfall and why I gave up mine, because, again, we couldn't all afford new games all the time. So the best way to play new games was trade them with your friends. And all my friends all got the PlayStation because it was a lot cheaper. I mean, this is what marketing is now. It's not so much what is the better console, it's what's the cheapest, what is the best way to get a console into. Because once some consoles are into the people's homes, games will then come. The companies will make more games for a system that's in the homes more than something that's not. And that's what happened with the PlayStation. That's why there is umpteen times more PlayStation games than Saturn games. So all my friends was getting PlayStations, and I was like, I bit the bullet. I had to trade it in. My beloved Saturn that I had so much fun with had to trade in, so I could play Ridge Racer and then trade it. And Formula One as well. Like, it's crazy, like how good that game was. That was unreal playing that game. It was like playing in a Formula One race car. I remember my friend Johnny Scar, he had the steering wheel and we'd play Formula One. And I was like,
fantastic,
the arcade. It was amazing.
I remember hearing that game for the first time with Murray Walker on it.
Oh, exactly. The commentary and stuff.
It just added so much to it. And I was like, I've very, very few systems I've ever bought for, near enough full price, but the PlayStation one was one of them.
Yeah,
it was just absolutely. A couple of friends of mine got one, and I played, and I thought, yeah, this will reignite my passion for gaming, because after the Amiga, I hadn't played the Amiga probably a great deal. And then when I eventually got a PS1, probably 97, I think it was, not long after I started working full time, it was just a no-brainer. I thought, I've got to get one of these, and it was just great.
Yeah,
and I know I always slag the Saturn off, and it's just something I never connected with. I'm not saying it's a bad system.
Yeah,
I think it's there are some fun games. I mean, Sega Rally, Daytona, Virtua Fighter, Alien Trilogy. I know some of these games are available on other systems. Tomb Raider, which of course came out it first, not a PlayStation 1 game. So Tomb Raider came out on the Saturn first, I think, if I'm correct in saying that.
Again, that's a bit of like a nugget of knowledge that we all know now. But do you know what? Back then, I always thought it was a PlayStation 1 game. Even back then, it wasn't really well marketed on Saturn, even though it came out there first.
Yeah, it's a shame what happened, because I grew up with Sega, and they were always there. And Nintendo were always there, but I was always more focused on Sega. To see the Saturn sort of flop as it did, and basically spelled the end of pretty much the beginning of the end really for them, which was a real shame. But I mean, I just never connected with the Saturn. Sadly, I was just more about the PlayStation. You could go and get PlayStation 1 games everywhere. They were try and find a Saturn game was pretty much impossible.
Well, that was the other nail in the coffin for the Saturn, wasn't it? Really, the fact that it was so easy to copy games for the PlayStation, get it chipped, 20, 30 quid, then you'd go get games for. I've seen different prices. I used to pay about, I think it was like 2 or 3 quid, but some people would pay no more than 5 quid for a copied game from the local whatever store, and then eventually we all got PCs that could actually copy them. Go to Blockbuster, rent a game, and then copy it.
Yeah, no, it's. But again, there's a lot of love for the Saturn. People who do experience it and play on it, as you've talked about, they connect with it, and it's a very popular system with them. But I think it's one of these where you have to have got into it to appreciate it. Yeah. And I've never really got into it properly. Having said that, I've said this before, when I first started collecting retro systems, going back 10 years, it was one of the first systems I wanted to get hold of.
Yeah,
I thought that there were 2 or 3 I definitely want to get a Mega Drive again. I definitely wanted an N64, and I definitely wanted the Saturn. It was in my top 3 things to get, and I've just never connected with it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the Saturn, it had games like Panzer Dragoon. Absolutely love that game. There is games like that on the PlayStation, but nowhere near as good as Panzer Dragoon. That was just unreal at the time.
I saw a copy of that today in cash converters for 40 quid.
Yeah, I always thought it was like a 10, 20 quid game until I started trying to get it again. It was like, even like 2 or 3 years ago, it was 30 quid.
I did find a copy of a car boot once, but unfortunately the disc had been taken out of it, so it was just the box.
Oh, good.
But I knew it was one of those games that you had to get hold of the Saturn. I thought, oh, great, found a copy of this, and there's no disc inside it.
No, I don't. It's one of them that baffles me because it's not hard to find, but it's just that good a game that everyone wants it. It really is. It really stands up, even though it's really blocky and everything like that. There is something. It's like Star Fox on the Super Nintendo. Kind of like, if you see the graphics of it, it looks very dated, and the frames rate's not that good. But once you start playing it, it's like really addictive, and it's like it's so good to play even now.
I've been lucky with the Saturn because I've had 3. I've still got 2 at various points in my life. The first one I got was a bundle, which came with most of the games I got for it. I think I paid about 15 quid for it, which is brilliant. And I've picked up 2 just units without any controllers or leads with them for £1 each at car boot sales, and they both turned out to work absolutely fine. It's just reminding me, just thinking about that. I've seen one at a car boot, and there must have been about a guy selling it with about 25, 30 games, and he wanted 50 quid for it. I'm going back 10 years now, and I just sort of kind of thought, God, if I bought that then, maybe I'd have got a bit more out of it. I don't know. One of those missed opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with me, I was quite late into collecting the Saturn, and it was something I always wanted to do, but I always pushed off because I was collecting the cartridge-based games. They would always take priority. But then I found a Saturn from the car boot, 45 quid, and it had about 5 or 6 games, and 2 of them were pretty heavy hitters. Like, it had Darius Gaiden, which is like 150 quid game now, I think.
Oh, great.
And so, yeah, it was quite a good start. And then I started playing it, and I just got addicted again. That was like the main focus for me for the last couple of years. And it's the main retro console that I'm playing at the moment. Like, I have it like right downstairs. I've got a Saturn down here that I play in my living room, and I've got one up in my game room as well. So no matter where I go, I can play my Saturn, and it's just incredible. And it's the learning about games again at the moment that I'm really enjoying. There's so many Japanese games that I never played. Well, we never played because unfortunately it flopped in England, so we didn't get the same games that got pumped out over in Japan. I
know there's a lot of people who do go down that import route, and maybe, I think I've said it before, it might be might have been better for me to tackle it slightly differently rather than playing the PAL games to sort of approach the Saturn from the import side of it. But I don't know. I'm still going to be attempting at one point to try and sit down with it properly and give it some appreciation. Because like I said earlier about the NES, I've not really had a connection to the NES, but I have played quite a lot of NES games lately. I've quite enjoyed it. So if I can get the Saturn into position and play some games on it, perhaps. Because a lot of games I mentioned, Daytona, Sega Rally, Tomb Raider, I have got. So I could probably give those a go and see how I get on with them, and it might just ignite
Sega
me.
Rally, though, that's probably the most hours I spent on a Saturn game, like just shaving off them little seconds. Amazing.
I've played it quite a bit on the Saturn years and years ago, and I just loved it. It's one of the games I've got to get hold of. I've got to get that game for it, and luckily the bundle I bought came with it. It's like brilliant. And just playing that for the first time, and it's like, yeah, this is actually not bad. Not bad. Not arcade perfect, but not bad.
Again, back then we wasn't expecting the arcade at home. Because the thing is, there was the arcade and then it was consoles. So it was that close. It still impressed us.
I think there was maybe a slight expectation that when we got to that generation, because if you remember when the Mega Drive and Super Nintendo were there, the emphasis was on arcade style graphics. A lot of the magazines would, as they did previously with Amiga and games, they'd sort of say, oh, this is nearly arcade perfect. So by the time you get to 95, 96, when these systems are coming out, you are expecting arcade games to be pretty much as they would be. So I think there might have been a tinge of disappointment. And I know there's two versions of Daytona for it, and one of them is not great at all.
The thing is, what they did was it the Championship Edition, the second one, wasn't it? And basically, what they did is they made the frame rate a lot better and everything like that. Plays it a lot better, but it's not quite got that same look, and the music completely changed.
Yeah, because I bought the original version of Daytona, and I was under the impression that was the rubbish one. And the Championship Edition was the best one, but I've been told differently now.
It's what your taste is. It's like I say, the Championship Edition runs better, but it's not the Sega Rally that you know and love from the arcades, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But I'm just happy to have it, so it's
great games. The thing is, Daytona. I actually tried playing Daytona recently, and that's not aged the same way as I remember. It was another one of them games that you shaved off time and time, but like I don't know, it's just a bit of an average game.
The Daytona,
the rolling star, that was amazing.
But Daytona's one of those games you've got to sit down and play with four people at the same time. That's why I played it in the arcade. You know, we'd always find it, and you can guarantee that we'd be there for an hour or so, four of us swapping on and off, and just playing it that way. But okay, so you mentioned the PlayStation one, so you tried the Saturn in for the PS1.
Yeah, Ridge Racer straight off the bat, loved it. Yeah, and then it was that was the system that really I've played a few RPGs before. Like I say, because I was dyslexic, I never really fully got into them the same way. I've really enjoyed the turn-based combat, but I just didn't know fully didn't understand the story and stuff like that. But when the PlayStation came out, there was actual people talking and stuff like that. And it kind of like, it made me try to read more, because it wasn't every scene that there was talking. It just it gave me that base level to like work with. And like when Final Fantasy VII came out, it just revolutionized everything. Like I'm sure everyone in England thinks the same, because we were starved of RPGs back in the day. America had a really big head start with us than us with the RPGs. They had so many more that they'd already experienced before, but it was Final Fantasy VII that really blew up over here for us. And after that, it was like, I need to play more games like this. What else is there? It's not my favorite RPG on that system. that would go down to Suikoden.
Yep.
If you've ever seen that before. Absolute, more traditional Super Nintendo styley graphics. Little bit of like a Pokemon element where you've kind of like got to collect like different people to sort of like make your armies bigger and stuff like that. Not playable people. It's sort of like, I don't know, they extended your castle, if that makes sense. They would do different tasks and stuff like that to make your army better and stuff. And yeah, that really encapsulated me. I absolutely loved that. It was a proper adventure. And then things like Final Fantasy Tactics, again, a game that I never, the Final Fantasy name, I knew about it, so it was like, well, what's this? Final Fantasy Tactics. Went to the local comic book shop, got a CDR of it, and absolutely loved it. It was like, this is a totally different game. You actually, it's a strategy game. It was a bit like chess, playing chess, because you'd have a certain amount of blocks that you could move until you could do an action. Sometimes it would just be moving across to sort of like prepare yourself, and it was like, it's just like a new level of strategy that I've never played before. It was fantastic. Opening up games totally different than what I'd played before, and then that would go open to like Wild Arms and like Vandal Hearts. Oh my goodness, so many good like RPGs of that era that I think I love the RPGs now, but they overcomplicate things that you like, that was perfected in the PlayStation era. And I can see why they do that, because I don't want it to be stagnant and do the same thing over and over again. But for me, that is the tried and trust. That was the epitome of RPG level of goodness back then.
Yeah, it's the golden age for it, really.
Definitely.
You had elements of before. You had Secret of Mana and the Fantasy Star games, but
yeah,
I remember there being so many games that genre around, because it's not my sort of thing at all. But it just seemed to be loaded with games that you mentioned there, and I've had previous people on talking about their favourite games and or games they remember, and a lot of those titles you came at Suikoden certainly to come up, and Final Fantasy always crops up every other episode, every 3 episodes. It's nice.
It really was like a breakthrough game, really, for us, especially because we never got 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. It was we got 7. That was our first introduction to it, unless you read Super Play, and then you'd see Final Fantasy 6 or Final Fantasy 2, is it, or 3? No, Final Fantasy 3 in America, isn't it?
I know there's just a strange numbering system going on. Yeah.
So I can remember seeing that in Super Play and thinking that was quite impressive, but not really knowing much about it. There was another game called Front Mission that always like encapsulated me, and we never got that. It was only in Japan that came out on the Super Nintendo up until the DS, and then I finally got to play it, and it was like, wow, this is amazing. We're not talking about the DS, we're talking about the PlayStation. But yeah, like I got introduced to so many games through CDRs. This comic book shop that was around the corner, they used to do me a game for £2 or £3, and they would suggest random games that never came out in England, and I'd be like, some of them were like, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing, because it's all in Japanese. And then some, it was like just amazing, like Parodius, playing Parodius again on the on the PlayStation and stuff.
Yeah,
but
I PlayStation was one of my favorite consoles of all time. It's possibly my favorite incarnation of the PlayStation, just ahead of PlayStation 3, but. The game's got a certain look, the black spines with the white writing on them, and they all look great, and the cases are okay if you look after them properly. They're fine, and
exactly.
It was just
perfect when they look perfect together, like all uniform.
Yeah, there's nothing. I'm looking at them now. It's just I actually like having the odd platinum thrown in there as well, just to.
No, boo.
I say the odd, but I'd like the odd one. I don't like loads of them. I'd like to get rid of them eventually, but
I like them all together. I like how Gurney's having his. Like, they look really smart, like as a collection together. But it's when it's all mixed and matched.
I don't like them mix and match. So it's the same with the PlayStation 2 when you got the platinums in there as well. You got the blacks. Yeah, it doesn't look quite right, but.
At least we didn't get the CDRs of America as well. just
yeah,
TVs then, don't they?
that's it. Yeah,
I like how in PAL territories we have that distinct look of a game case. You can go, oh, that's a PlayStation game, that's a Dreamcast game. Where in America, it's like, I know that's a game, but what's this game?
What is it? Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's distinctive case packaging that you colorings and styles. You just get to know what it is. But yeah, I used to have loads of PlayStation 1 games. I used to swap and pick. I used to introduce people to PlayStation 1 games, or people who were focused on other systems. The one I did was used to be playing on Mario Kart all the time on the SNES and then on the N64. And I just, one Christmas, I took my PlayStation round with Crash Team Racing. And I said, here you go, have a go at that. And by the end of it, my was go, wow, she's really good.
Yeah.
This is really good. I said, it's better than Mario Kart. And he's like, maybe not. I said, no, it is better than Mario Kart. I don't care what you say, it's better than Mario Kart.
Yeah, no, I actually put that in my top list of PlayStation games. And it was actually one I missed out on back in the day because I played that many dodgy kart races on the PlayStation. I just thought it was like the PlayStation couldn't run them properly or something. Not to the same level as Mario Kart. So I kind of like dismissed it. And then because everyone kept saying how good it was, when I started collecting a game, I got it and I absolutely fell in love with it. It's great. I've been dissuaded by things like Bomberman Fantasy Race, I think it was.
Yeah.
Because obviously I love my Bomberman game. So I was like, oh, Bomberman Kart Racer. Amazing.
You're going to get that.
Really not. It's terrible.
There's Speed Freaks, I think I quite enjoyed Speed Freaks. That was a good one. And Street Racer as well.
Yeah. Street Racer was, again, I played that on the Mega Drive. I think initially, or maybe the Super Nintendo, and that was a brilliant game. But when it came on PlayStation, it really they enhanced it a little bit, so it was really good.
Yeah, I think they did, didn't they? Yes, that's right.
It ran a lot faster.
But Speed Freaks was a decent little one as well, if I remember. So yeah, there were quite a few of those. But like I said, yes, some of them were.
I mean, I played Motor2 Grand Prix, which looked cool, but just felt. It wasn't a Mario Kart style game. It didn't have that feel of Mario Kart or Crash Team Racing.
Yeah.
Which Motor2 Grand Prix, is that the one that actually was made by the people who did Gran Turismo, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they did that super hyper realistic sort of like cartoon thing to then go into like super realistic simulation racing.
They should have stuck to the Motor2 racing, I think, because I hate Gran Turismo, just too serious for me. But
yeah, same with me.
I got it when it came out. I invested in what the magazines were saying. This is the best racing game ever. I agree. At the time, it looked really, really fantastic on a PlayStation 1. But I don't want a serious driving game. Thank you very much. This is like learning to drive. It's like buying education. It's like buying educational software. Stop trying to teach me something. I want to have a bit of fun here. No damage when he crashed. Okay,
no, exactly. There was that thrill of racing just wasn't there. It was like, look at the reflections on the car body. That's what everyone talked about, wasn't it? It was like, listen to the sound, the realistic sound of the revving, because it's been recorded with this microphone. It was like there was just like all these stats like brought into the magazines talking about it. It was like, no, not this.
A nice rolling demo, but it's not the sort of game that I'm going to sit down and play.
I want something to shout at me and give me something that I can't do when I'm driving. Well, I'm not that I could drive back then anyway, but
well, me neither. Yeah, if anything, Gran Turismo put me off driving, because I thought if that's driving, I don't want to know.
Well, that's it. I just thought it was going around like Ridge Racer, doing like skids around corners.
Yeah, because I'll go and play Ridge Racer. I'm much happier playing that. Thank you very much. No, I don't play these terrible games. Yeah, great system, PlayStation 1. And then you moved on to that really noisy white thing.
Yes.
Which again, it's nice little system, but
yeah, at that point it was like I think it was 1999, wasn't it? So I was 17. I was at college. And at that point, at most 17-year-olds, we was probably going out, getting drunk, trying to chat up girls and everything.
Most 17-year-olds, you say? Most.
Yeah. so that's what my life had started becoming. And so I was like, I don't want to get this video game console. But at the time, I was doing computer studies at college. So I was learning how to do programming. And people that do that kind of stuff tend to gravitate towards gaming and stuff like that. So even though I was kind of like pushing myself a different way, when the Dreamcast came out, about 4 or 5 people went out on the release date, got it on the dinner break and brought it back, and then for that full week everyone was talking about it. So what did I have to do the next week? Mum, can I borrow some money? I need to get a Dreamcast. So yeah, it only took a week and I got my Sega Dreamcast, and I got brought back into it all again. Power Stone, amazing. Crazy Taxi, amazing. Just again, it was that arcade feel at home that it really was the arcade, because a lot of them arcade machines were made from a Dreamcast.
Yeah.
So there was just a modified version of it, wasn't it? So you realistically had your arcade at home.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And then as well, I think it was like Sonic the Hedgehog, that first demo that everyone's seen, where he was running along the beach and then this flipping whale jumped over him. I was like, whoa, there's such a spectacle. I was like, consoles can push graphics like that now. And you went from 30-bit to 128-bit. I was like, whoa, that's incredible.
I'd like the Dreamcast. Again, it's probably the fourth system that would have been on my list to pick up after it. I think I'd have been not so focused on the PlayStation 1 at the time. I might have been interested, but the problem was, for me, it was just that Sega were a bit of a non-entity at the time. Although this was the last sort of roll of the dice, and I was very much into PlayStation gaming, so it didn't appeal to me. I don't know why.
It was the in-between as well. Like they released it too quick, didn't they, really? I think they just used their existing hardware that they had in an arcade and tried to get a console out as quick as they could, instead of putting a bit more development into it and having a proper PlayStation 2 beta.
Yeah, I agree.
Really, it was a great short-lived console. Like, there's so many good games on it, but there was not that many games that had like that longevity that like the later consoles had, or even the ones before it, because there was mainly like arcade-based sort of gaming.
Yeah, it was very, very accurate from that, and I know why people enjoy it so much, because it was very much, as you said, they got there at that point pretty much arcade perfect. It was as it should be, but there's just something about it. It just didn't feel quite right. I mean, again, I like it. You know, I like the controller. I like the white console. That was something a little bit different as well.
It is a good-looking console, you've got to admit.
Aesthetically, it's brilliant to look at. The cases are a bit hit and miss, the game cases, but that shouldn't be a selling point really to the console.
I love the game cases; they look beautiful, but like you say, as soon as they start going wrong, then they just look horrible.
Yeah, I've done my my Dreamcast collection. Half the cases have got bits missing off them, but that's fine. It's the way it is. You just have to look after them.
It's a splash of blue that you didn't have with dual cases back then, and they had that like sort of like rounded, bubbly look. That again, it was just even though the PlayStation 1 wasn't a dual case, it still kind of looked like one. Where this just looked like something completely different.
Yeah, it's distinctive, isn't it? It's like nothing you've seen before.
Yeah. But the thing is, the problem is, like you say, it's all arcade based, and at that point, games were then trying to become immersive, and that's where how it didn't survive. Really, there wasn't that many games that had that kind of gameplay. It was all like you could play it for half an hour and then you stop.
Yeah,
and I think that's what killed it off. Really, yes, there is some RPGs on it and everything like that, but they just wasn't pushed properly.
No,
I remember hearing about any back then.
No, I must admit, it was something that passed me by at the time, which was a real shame, and I appreciate it a little bit more now. But again, some of the games, some of the games you see everywhere, so common, and it's more the difficult ones that you can't find, or the more obscure titles that perhaps you want to play. But then you mentioned it, Crazy Taxi. That's a great version. Like we mentioned, Gurneldino. I do like the Virtua Striker games, Virtua Tennis. I played that in the arcade, and I thought that was really good on there as well.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of, was it Revolt as well, which was a
the remote control car game.
remote control, and Hydra Thunder as well. Hydra Thunder, yeah. So there's some good games for it. It just something out of trace.
And the controller, it wasn't very good, really. Oh,
I don't mind it. I prefer it to the N64 one.
No, I'd like the N64 one. I don't mind it. It's still cool. I don't know. Even though it's weird, all the buttons are in the right places. With the Dreamcast controller, I'm always adjusting myself, trying to like get to the buttons properly, and I don't know, the thumbstick's not quite ergonomically right for me.
I've never had a real problem with it. The only thing I don't like about it is that VMU unit in the middle of it. I just that seems just sort of tacked on, and it just doesn't suit the controller itself.
Or the cable that sticks, it points out towards you, so it has to twisting back to itself.
Yeah, it does. It's not perfect. It does have a few problems. I'll give it that. And it is noisy. The machine itself was noisy, horrible.
Like scratching the discs, don't they, when it's loading up?
Yeah, but you immediately think there's something wrong with it because it's so loud. Why is it making such a noise? No other machine makes a noise like that. Yeah, it's very, very strange to hear it going. But I just that puts me off straight. So you think something wrong with this? No. That's what it does
as well, because I always remember, like, first thing I did actually when I got home, went on the internet.
Oh yeah, because never been that before.
I could do it on the PC at home, but oh my goodness, I'm doing it in the living room on my TV. That was incredible to think that now you've got it on your phone. Any electronic device you can get on the internet nowadays.
Yeah, but that was
like the first commercial sort of thing that you could do just easily. You didn't have to think how to set it up or anything. It just was there ready in the box.
With the built-in modem, that's it. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I was going to say something else, but I can't remember it now. It was just a shame because, as you said, I think with a bit more thought and care and attention, it could have been an awful lot better. But and that was it for Sega then as a console maker of machines. That was then finished, which is probably not how they wanted to go.
The Xbox was the Dreamcast 2, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah. It's. I mean that, as you said, mentioned the internet did that as well, didn't it? And there were other parts of the online play and Xbox Live, which could have been done through the Dreamcast. So it's a shame. It's a shame.
I want them to come back, but is there any point really? I mean, there's three big major consoles in the market as it is. A fourth one would. Well, what's the point?
Well, you got so much ground to make up on it, and don't forget you're now living on past history. Sega made consoles 20 years ago. They're going to bring a new console out. There's two generations of people that will mean absolutely nothing to. It'll mean something to you and me.
Yeah.
But anybody who was born after the 2000, anybody who was born 90, 95 onwards, I suppose, really, when 7 or 8,
it would just be a novelty, wouldn't it, really? It'd do well, but it wouldn't do anything.
It would be a nostalgia kick.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, maybe a mini console or something, just to get as many games on as they can do and put it out that way rather than. But because Mega Drive Mini did very well for Sega. They put that together really, really well. It was a properly well done homage to the system. They got some decent games on it, and it felt like somebody made a lot of work on this and go to show that they can actually do something very, very popular again for people.
Well, M2 took the reins, didn't they, and finished the job off properly. So it was a proper product. Yeah, and they've got a lot of experience with Saturn games, so it'd be nice to see a Saturn Mini. But I think the mini craze is finished now. I don't think we're going to be.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll be seeing an N64 one anytime soon.
I don't think there's much point really.
People want it on the Switch. What's the point of having it on the Mini?
Well, if you've got that platform for it, and
Yeah.
they do keep re-releasing these old games onto the Switch format, and just keep it that way.
Yeah.
But then they can make more money that way. I shouldn't be telling them this, but they can make more money that way.
The problem is with Nintendo is they charge like what stupid amounts, £5 or £6 for a retro game that's been released so many times. If they sold it for a third of the price, like £2, so many more people will be buying it because £2 throwaway, isn't it? Really, you don't mind paying £2 for something. You play it once and you're okay. Whereas £6, that's a big amount of money. You have to think more about spending £6, don't you?
I agree. Yeah, you would do something like that, and they have a tendency to repeat themselves quite a lot. It'd be nice to just rethink things, but it's Nintendo. That's what they do.
Yeah. Found more ways to siphon the money out of you.
Siphon the money. Well, they do. They have a way of doing it, don't they? They get your claws into you, and that's it. Right then, so that's that portion of your gaming history finished. We'll come back to the last little bit in a moment. But we're going to talk about your other 3 games on your 6 to take with you to a desert island list.
Yeah.
And again, quite relevant because we mentioned 2 of the systems, and there's another one there as well. So, let's start with the Saturn game on your list.
The Saturn game. So, people think of this as a beloved game, but do you know what? It's not one of my favorites. It's when people think of Sega Saturn shooters, this is always people's top of the list. And yeah, I'm not a massive fan of it. And it's because it's so hard and so long and doesn't look the best. But the music is amazing on it. And it's Radiant Silvergun.
Mm-hmm.
So why am I putting a game on there that I don't really like?
It seems a strange choice, but we'll let you try and explain yourself out this rather large hole.
Yeah, so I've completed the game, and the only way I could do it was putting cheats on it so I could play it. And it took me nearly 2 hours to complete a shooter. Playing a shooter for 2 hours is a flipping experience and a half.
It's been a long time since I've done that. I know that.
So, I mean that was like constantly playing it. That's what I mean. It's a long game. It wasn't like the repetition of trying to complete it. It's just that it was a long game. I would say properly, if you was to play it from start to finish without dying, it would probably take about an hour and a half, I'd say. So for a shooter, that's a long game. That is something else. And for me, I don't think I would have the patience to do it properly.
Right.
Outside of being stuck on a desert island.
Well, you have all this time on your hands now.
Exactly. So, I mean, that would be a brilliant game to try and complete properly. I'd love to do it. It's the thing is with there's patterns. You need to remember the patterns, but when you're an hour into a game, how can you remember them patterns that you've only seen a couple of times at that point? And yeah, it's only going to be possible if you're stuck on a desert island. So that's what I'm going to do. When I'm stuck there, Radiant Silvergun's going to have a proper go at it. People love these games. The treasure shooters, Radiant Silvergun and Ikaruga, everyone sees as a spiritual successor to it, but it's not really. But Ikaruga is a terrible game. It really is. It's another one that's like beloved in everyone's eyes because it's got a cool mechanic, but visually it's not very appealing, other than the different color bullets, and it's very short, so it wouldn't be a great game to take to a desert island, even though it's rock hard and I've still not completed it. It's only like 5 stages and you can probably blast through it within half an hour. Radiant Silvergun is a whole novel like beast of a game. Something as long as that for a shooter isn't. It's going to take many playthroughs.
Yeah.
So
repeated playing. Yeah. Game I've heard of, but I've never played. I know people talk about it. As you said, rightly or wrong, has been a great game, and you have that slightly different opinion. But not one I can comment on, I'm afraid.
For me, it's a shooter. on a 32-bit system that's made 3D. So for me, the graphics aren't the most appealing, but I do, when you play it, the graphics really put me off from playing it. That's probably the worst thing, and the length. But when you actually play it, the gameplay is pretty good, and it is quite addictive until you get like absolutely murderized. So yeah, the soundtrack is absolutely stunning as well. It's something that you could just listen to and just get pumped up. So that would be great on a desert island as well.
Yeah, you'll need that because there won't be an awful lot else to do, really.
Exactly. That's my soundtrack of there, just playing that and just getting like murdered over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. With a smile on your face.
With a smile on my face.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, like this. Not that anyone can see that.
The things you get up to on your own. There you go. There's plenty of time for
Not that kind of pumping the fist up.
No.
Well, I know what you like.
Yeah, again, a choice for a particular reason, and I'm fully behind those reasonings. Yeah, I mean, you do like your shooters, don't you?
I love my shooters. Yeah, it's something that brings me back to the past. We all played shooters as a kid. It was like space shooters or platformers, and that was pretty much all we had, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that's it. Yeah, it was one or the other.
And it was just like trying to test yourself to try and get as far as you can, because you couldn't. No one could do it the first time. No, it's impossible. But yeah, now I've really grown back into them again. Like I say, I'll just put them on quickly just to get the blood pumping, and
that's what you need.
Know what far I can do. Yeah.
Okay, so that's Radiant Silvergun on the Saturn. That's your fourth choice. You've got a Dreamcast game on your list as well.
Yeah, still sticking with Sega, and it's a game that I've not played. I thought if we're going to be on a desert island, I want to have a new experience.
This is a first. We never had anybody pick a game that they haven't had before.
So yeah, well, we did try to say that we're trying not to talk about something for too long, and I thought having something I've never played before, I can't really talk about much, can I? So yeah, Skies of Arcadia on the Dreamcast. Like I say before, that we didn't really get no one really talked about RPGs on that system. Again, it's one that I learned about later on, and it's one I don't know why I've still not booted up and played. I actually attempted it the other day, and then I got distracted and played something else. I know Dave Games Play Badly. It's one of his favorite games. Basically, it's about becoming a sky pirate.
Well, that sounds about right, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah. So the graphics on it are stunning. It's like playing an arcade game RPG. It's got that, the chunky arcade graphics that the Dreamcast is well known for.
Yeah. Very
colourful, just like that. But then a full story. I think it's 3 discs long. So it's one of the bigger Dreamcast games that you can get. So
they'll keep you going for a bit then.
Yeah, I mean, I love my RPGs. I love my stories. And after playing all these arcade-style games before, it would be great just to sit down with something with a bit of entertainment. The only thing I'm just worried about is once I've completed it, you're not going to go back and just play it again, are you, really?
Not really, no. It's unless there was a different way of doing it, of course. But
yeah, I mean,
how linear the story is, sorry.
Yeah. It's an RPG, so it's not going to be like go from A to B and then it's finished. So there will be like little side quests, I'm assuming. I'm hoping so. Because I'm stuck in a desert island. I want to try and get as much out of this game as I can.
This could be quite a risky choice, then. You may find you power through it.
Well, that's it. There's all these people who say championing it. Have they actually played it, or are they just saying how they love it because it's one of these well-known ones? We'll be able to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever done that though? Have you ever bought a game that you've been so hyped about, and then you put it on and you're like, I can't play this?
Yeah, many times. I've sort of gone to pick a game up or read about it. I've got to go and get this game and sort of get there and then not be so excited to play it when I get back and I'll put it in. I fancy this now. or you know, I bought something. Yeah, great. I want to play this, and I just don't. I leave it. Yeah, it happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
The only experience I've got with Skies of Arcadia is there is, I believe, there's a level on Sonic and Sonic's All Star Racing Transformed.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, where you just go through. Cause they got the different levels based around tracks based around the different Sega games on there, and that's one of them.
Yeah,
That's the only experience I've got with Skies of Arcadia.
that's cool. But
That's
yeah,
all I
I
can
love
tell you
that
about it.
setting. I'm assuming it'd be like sort of in the skies on like different.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome. That.
yeah, because the transform ones is where you get the different vehicles. If you you've got like an afterburner level as well, so you have the racing on the deck of the ship, and then you shoot into a plane. And it's the same for the Arcadia level, which I think probably is all that. Been a while since I played it, but I think that's all in the air. So, because I've heard of Skies Arcadia, but I never played it and didn't know anything about it. So when I saw that level, I thought, oh, it's all set up in the air for some reason. So
Yeah, Sky Pirates.
Now I know Sky Pirates,
Yeah.
or as David Birdsall, I should refer to him as now. Right, so that's the Dreamcast game. That's number 5. Last game on your list.
We're doing another adventure.
Another
We're doing another
adventure.
RPG, and it's one that I've completed many times. Well, not many times before, but I've played for many hours, probably about 100 hours into it. And it's Ni no Kuni
On the PlayStation 3.
on the PlayStation 3, yeah. It's been remastered on the PlayStation 4 as well, so there is other ways to play it. But yeah, that is, I mean, again, if you're stuck in a desert island, you're probably going to be feeling a little bit sorry for yourself. You need that pick me up, and Ni no Kuni is that game. It's you've heard of Studio Ghibli?
Yes.
Well, this game, it's a cross. It's a collaboration with Studio Ghibli and what is it? Level 5. I was going to call it Factor 5 again. And it's Level 5, who's well known for their RPGs and stuff. So it's got that Ni no Kuni look and just plays like a cartoon. Like it just feels like you've just been transported into a Studio Ghibli world. Absolute beautiful visuals. And the gameplay, it wasn't what I was expecting. When I played it, I thought it was going to be like some kind of turn-based RPG, but it's actually more like an MMO style game where it's like you kind of have like sort of like turn-based actions happening while you're playing like real time. So you'll go into like sort of like an enemy encounter and you can't get stray much further away, but you'll be running around trying to like go backwards and forwards, waiting for like certain actions to be available again.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really, really interesting gameplay. And the story is probably my favorite story I've ever experienced. There's a guy who's this weird character called Drippy, and he's Welsh. Like, in fact, all of the
strange choice, but yeah, go on.
In fact, all of like the creature that is, because there's a few of them around the world, they're all Welsh. That their accent is Welsh, and he's the funniest character in any video game. It's just like, I don't know, there's something warming about Welsh people, like Goodwin's Place and Retro Steve. Look, I don't understand the hell they're saying, but I enjoy listening to them all the same. They're just there's no bad bones in the bodies, are there really? So
no, there's not. They are good people.
Exactly. So
love Steve and Craig.
Yeah. So just having that as a part of the gameplay is just awesome. I just love it. So yeah, like I say, if you're stuck in that desert island, you just want to have that good time feeling.
Yeah, but again, picked for all the right reasons, and I can see it's a game you think very highly of, certainly.
Yeah. It's funny because I actually bought that game probably about a year, maybe 2 before I actually bought the console.
Oh right, so you're one of these people who buys games for systems they haven't got?
Yes, I'm one of them. I get the game to make sure I've got the game. I know that I want it because I got it like with an art book and the game. I got it for like £8, I think, and then 2 years later I got the console because. Yeah, I'm a bit tight sometimes, and I want to get the console as cheap as I can.
Well, I could understand that. I've been out shopping with you, so I know exactly what you get up to. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, yeah, I've just recently bought some Switch games, and I don't own a Switch, so
it's a pattern developing here.
yeah.
Oh dear me.
But once I
But
do, I've got games to play, haven't I? You see?
well, that's easy. But you've already got games to play anyway, haven't you?
Well, yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
That's what I was
yeah.
thinking.
Just put them on the to play pile, which
It's a whole
probably
room there.
resembles Snowdonia at this point in time. It's a giant pile of them. Yeah, not a game I know anything about, I'm afraid, so I can't really add anything to it. But
Yeah.
all your choices, I can't argue with, because you're picking them for the right reason as to why you're there.
Yeah.
And these are games that are going to fill your time drastically until you get rescued or die lonely. One of the two.
So, I don't know. Do you like the Studio Ghibli films?
It's not really my thing. I've got to be honest with you. Okay. I've seen a couple of them, but just not my style.
Because the games is a sequel as well, but the storylines are totally different. They're almost interlinking, but not quite. But there's also a Netflix cartoon like series of Ni no Kuni, which is a third story as well.
Mm.
So if you was ever into that Studio Ghibli, that would have been a perfect watch for you. Just kind of get an idea what it's about.
I've caught Mrs. Bear watching the odd. She's watched. What's that? What's it called now?
Spirited Away is probably the most.
I've caught her watching some strange Japanese animations.
Okay.
One with Titan in the title. God,
Attack of Titan.
Yeah, that Attack on Titan. Yeah, that's she's watched all those. Managed to find those from somewhere. And there's another one she's even weirder she was watching, but occasionally she dips into those. But I can't get into them. I'm afraid, not my thing really. Okay, let's so those are your 6 games anyway. Just bring us very, very briefly up to date, because obviously after the Dreamcast, you sort of dipped out, didn't you? I think you said there was a.
So the Dreamcast, I got into drinking, girls, and rollerblading. I didn't have time for anything else. I was never at home. I was always out and about. The only time I'd come home for is quick sleep, and then I'll be out again. So no time for console gaming or anything like that. But I still had that gamer in me. So whenever a new console would come out, I would pick it up. I picked up the PlayStation 2, but realistically, it was a DVD player. It wasn't. I would play games every so often. I moved to Leeds, and when I was living there, the guys that I lived with, 2 of them were managers of the local skate park. And the skate park was sponsored by PlayStation. So they would bring back games every so often for us to play. So he'd bring back God of War, some of the Tony Hawk games that was out at the time, the BMX one, Matt Hoffman, because there was both BMXs, you see. So we'd play that quite a lot. But yeah, that was quite a cool little time, having free games brought back for us. But yeah, I also touched into the DS, got it for Mario Kart, sold it straight away. That would be the theme, because I'd get a console and then have it for about 2 months and then sell it for a night out.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
The probably the longest one that I had during like sort of my non-gaming days was the GameCube.
Oh really? Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually had the Donkey Kongers. Absolutely loved that. That was the perfect game to come back when you was pissed and play.
That's possibly the greatest peripheral ever. Those bongos, absolutely fantastic. I couldn't believe how good they were. Yeah, so amazing.
Yeah, and they make great flower pots that I've seen.
Yes, I've seen those photographs as well. I mean, why on earth do you want to do something like that? I have absolutely no idea.
Just my knife, I think.
Well, they're strange on that side of the country.
But yeah, I used to like watching a lot of NBA as well. So I actually got NBA Courtside.
Yep.
That was probably the most played game. That's what kind of kept the console for me, playing that quite a lot.
So you didn't play any of the big hitters then?
Well, yeah, I tried getting back into the RPG thing, and I kind of made a mistake because I picked up Harvest Moon. I thought that looks totally RPG. Do you know what I mean? It has that effect of an RPG, and I was like, I'm doing what now? Farming. But I kind of played it, and I didn't get very far with it.
Yeah, I think you have a certain resolve to play something like. I like the idea of it. It's the same like the idea of Animal Crossing, like the idea of Farming Simulator, of which I've got copies of all three games of the ones they've released in the series at some point. I like the idea, but could I actually sit down and play something like that?
No,
I don't know. I ain't got the patience. I can't do gardening in real life. I'm going to sit down and play it on the computer. I don't. That's not my sort of thing, really.
And of course, the big one, the good one to play with a few of it, Double Dash.
Oh, what a great game that is! That was the game that restored my faith in Mario Kart. I thought, you know what, Mario Kart isn't all about getting battered into the ground and getting pissed off playing this game. It is, and I got playing it on my own.
Yeah.
And occasionally with Mrs. Bear, but more so on my own. I can actually enjoy playing Mario Kart and get to grips with it. And I love it. I think, I don't know, I like Mario Kart 8 on either the Wii U or the Switch. I quite like that one. Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah, but Double Dash is it's that one or that one.
Best 8 is the best, hands down, but 64 is the most nostalgic because I've had 2 iterations of playing it quite a lot. It was when I had the N64 back as a kid. Played that all the time.
Yeah.
And then later on, I went to university when I was like 24, I think. So I was a bit later on, and one of the housemates had an N64, and so it was like really late on. Like I think this is way into the PlayStation 2, even 360 area. So we was playing this. We'd go out, get pissed again, come home, and then we'll play 4-player Mario Kart, and that was just amazing. Like all sat around like this little 14-inch screen. But it wouldn't be just 4 of us. There would be like 7 or 8 of us. All like we would all come back and have like proper tournaments after a night out. We'd be like going to people like, we don't even. Do you want to come back to ours to play Mario Kart? It was amazing.
That would be about 2005, 2006, wasn't it? Really?
It was, yeah.
So, yeah. Wow, that sounds amazing. Which is the same sort of thing. We'd end up at someone's house and we'd be playing GoldenEye or FIFA or whatever it was, and on the N64, and just playing winner stays on and rotating people around, and happy days they were.
But the thing is as well, like the guy probably bought like the whole setup for like 20 quid, 30 quid or something from a cash converters.
And you would have got it for that price, yeah.
Because it was like a throwaway thing. It was like it didn't matter if someone like smashed the controller, because it would be like, oh, it's all right, I'll get another one.
I was stunned. You mentioned the N64. I was stunned today. I saw expansion packs for the N64 for sale today.
Okay.
I saw one in CEX for £45 and one in cash converters for 40 quid. I had no idea they were so expensive, because when I've been looking, I bought an N64 from a car boot. All 3 I bought have all got the expansion packs in them.
I've also heard that the jumper pack is actually quite expensive as well. You know, the when you actually get it, if you pull the expansion out, you can't start the system. You need the jumper pack to be put back in, because not all games play with that jumper pack. It can sort of like messing games up, can't it? So you'd need to put the jumper pack back in. But because everyone puts the expansion in and throws that one away, they're kind of getting a bit rare, really.
Yeah, that's. Couldn't believe they were that expensive.
And it's only like 4 or 5 games that it actually really works for.
That's right. There's not many of them.
They're in every N64.
Yeah. I think I've got 2 of them. I know Donkey Kong 64 is one of them. I know that.
Well, we all thought that it actually made the console better for every game, though, didn't we?
Yeah, but it didn't.
No.
Should know better. Anything else you want to add to your console history before we move on to your final 2 games?
well, like I say, then after that, like I was just flitting in between the consoles, and then it was picking up a GameCube game. Someone was staying at my house for a couple of weeks, and as a thank you, he gave me a GameCube with Super Monkey Ball, Double Dash, and I can't remember what other game. And again, between that got me onto looking at YouTube for other games, introduced into Angry Video Game Nerd, and then that was what the catalyst of collecting again. That was really it was the GameCube again that kind of got me back into gaming and collecting.
It's a very underrated system, and I always regret not giving it a proper go when I first had it, because that was that's the only system I've ever bought. I've said this many times. Bought from launch, and bought on the release date, and we had Monkey Ball, we had Rogue Leader, and various other games went through my hands over the course of 12 months, Smash Brothers and other ones as well, but it just didn't click. It just didn't click with me, and I'm not sure what, because after I got rid of it, I'm training for an Xbox. After about sort of 12 months of playing with the Xbox, I didn't play many games for the next sort of 5-6 years. I still kept the Xbox. I've still got it, but I didn't get back into gaming until about 2009, when I started collecting old systems because they were so cheap. And I just caught the wave at the right time. I spent about 18 months picking up what I could. So I got a Saturn, a Dreamcast, and a Super Nintendo, all with games in a bundle for 50 quid off eBay. Now, you couldn't do that nowadays. You couldn't probably get one of those systems for 50 quid.
Well, I don't know if you know, but you can actually request your eBay history, and it's something that I've done recently. And there's a group that I'm on WhatsApp, and we've all done the same, and we're all posting our little bundles that we've bought over the years. We'll set a certain date, and today we've all been posting about Master System. And one of the big bundles that I got was a Master System console with peripherals, it said, and 30 games. This was 2013.
Right.
42 quid.
Oh.
Posted.
I posted for 42 quid. Wow.
I don't think the postage alone would cost more than that nowadays.
The postage would be about something like that would have been about 20 quid, I would have thought, wouldn't it?
About 20 quid plus your eBay fees, because they even charge you that on the postage as well, don't you? Do you
remember what games were in there?
I can't remember fully, but there was good games and stuff like that,
But I mean, even if those games were sort of the bog standard cheap ones you get, say 3-4 quid a pop nowadays, they wouldn't have been much more back then.
Exactly.
So with the system, it's probably about 100 and bottom line basic, at minimum, I'd say 150 quid's worth of stuff quite comfortably there.
Definitely.
Easily.
There would have been Streets of Rage in there and stuff like that.
Well, there we go then. It's amazing when you find, but you can't find stuff like that nowadays. That's the problem.
The thing is, bundles now actually sometimes go more than if you were to buy everything separately on eBay. There's a really weird, I don't know, everyone, too many eyes on things nowadays, isn't there?
And eBay sellers are very, very clever now, because if they've got the games that they know are more desirable, they'll put a bundle of, say, 10 games on, and you go through them, and 7 of them are usually very, very common titles you can pick up. So there's 3. I know, because I've seen it recently. I thought, I haven't got that, I haven't got that. And I'm working out, if I was to buy that bundle for that price, would I be saving any money on the 3 that are in there that I want? And would I get enough back on the 7 that I don't want to make it worthwhile? And I thought, if I'm sitting here working this out, this isn't worth it. I've got to sit here with a calculator and try and work out, am I going to be any better off or any worse off for buying that bundle just to get them 3 games?
And that's if you find retro bundles. Retro games don't get sold in bundles as much. Before it was just someone's gone into the loft, found a load of stuff, just sell it all at once. We don't want this anymore. Whereas now it's going from collectors to collectors now. That's right. It's a totally different thing. The thing is as well, back collecting, in the early teens, you would have so many spare consoles. It was unreal because you'd be buying console bundles.
Yeah.
Because it was, like I say, an attic find or something like that, because you wanted 3 or 4 games, you'd have like so many spare consoles, spare games. And if you sold them separately, you'd get 2 or 3 quid.
That's right.
So was it really worth it?
I mean, I've gone through this before, and I know, I think there's probably only the Super Nintendo that I haven't actually got a backup console of. Everything else I've got something else, or a spare console. In some cases, 2.
Yeah.
In the case of PlayStation 3, PlayStation 1, I've got 4 spare. I don't know why. And the Dreamcast, I've got about 4 spare as well. I've actually got a boxed Dreams. I've got 2 boxed Dreamcasts, and probably 2 spares, 2 loose ones as well. I don't know where they've come from, but you accumulate those, and so I don't want to sell them because I don't want the others to break down and find I've got none left.
That's it. As soon as it goes out of the collection, it's like, oh, yeah, everything's gone wrong. You need to
everything's not working. It's not going to work anymore.
Quid to get that.
Yes, that's right. Oh, it's the fear of the unknown, but yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to your final 2 games then, mate, because we like to finish with these 2. The one that you hate, we'll leave that to the very end, because we always finish on that one. Always leave people laughing with that one. But the other one, this is the one where I always say, it's a game you played before, and you couldn't put enough time into it, or you did put enough time into it, you didn't like it, or you didn't give it a fair chance, or you got so far but you couldn't complete it, or something else happened, or you moved on to something else. So again, very much sitting with the theme of some of your games already.
Yes, we go back to another RPG. To be honest, I completely forgot that you have a one to repeat. So this was going to be one of my previous picks because of the sheer length and size of it. It's a Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U.
Right.
So, yes, I've dipped my toes in it. But it overwhelmed me. There's not many games that overwhelm me, but that one really did. So I've literally just come off playing Xenoblade Chronicles on the 3DS. It wasn't I played the Wii version, but then I prefer playing my RPGs handheld on the go. Something about it, I just love it. But yeah, so I just played it on the Wii, on their 3DS. Didn't quite complete it. I got stuck on the last boss because there's like 3 iterations of bosses, and that last one just absolutely annihilated me. But I got enough. I've been playing it for over 100 hours, so I felt like I had my money's worth, so I was happy to like stop it. And then I thought, I'm going to start the next one, Xenoblade Chronicles X. I was 10 hours in, and I was still doing tutorials. Still learning stuff about the game. I was like, I thought I've done 120 hours of this. I looked up online, 250 hours easy plus the next one. And I was like, I'm really enjoying it and I really want to go back to it. But Jesus Christ, this game is huge.
I mean, 250 hours, it's 10 full days non-stop, 10 and a half days.
Jesus.
You went 240 hours, 24 hours a day. Yeah, 10 and a bit days if you didn't sleep, which you wouldn't be able to do anyway. But
no, I mean, that is just incredible. I mean, the thing is as well, the storyline is completely different. It's like you're in mech. It's not a traditional RPG looking. Like you're not like well, you are a person, but you go into like a mech world. You go take over these mechs, and that in itself was like what kind of like drew me into it. And I really wanted to play it, but as soon as I got a mech again, that gameplay just overwhelmed me. I was like, I know this is just scratching the surface of the game. So I know that once this gets difficult, will I be able to complete it? Will I be able to do it? Will I get to the same as what the other game did and it just completely annihilate me? So I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for doing it. And I've always put it off. Like next year, I'll play it next year when I've had a bit of a buffer between the two. And then it always goes, I'm going to play it the next year. And yeah, I really want to go back and play it, but I'm just so scared it's going to take over my life.
So it's the ideal game choice for a situation like this, isn't it?
Exactly. It's like you say, even if you play like 12 hours a day, that's a month of gaming.
That's a hell of a long time. I don't know where people get the time to play these games.
No.
had this discussion before when people say, "Oh yeah, there's probably about 100 hours of gameplay in this." I ain't got 100 hours to spare.
Yeah,
I've barely got time to play the stuff I've got already, let alone sit down and invest time in a game like that.
but the thing is, you find that one game and it's like that is like that, and so, like I know with Persona, I remember playing that and I was thinking I can't wait to go back and play that again, and just got addicted to it. There was another one that's on the Wii U that's another Shin Megami Tensei game, but it's crossed with Japanese idols.
No, I don't.
So Japanese idols, they're like the cutesy girls that sing, that basically pop stars, but they're like worshipped. Like
okay, yeah.
So it's like a very girly game, but then it's crossed with like Fire Emblem and like Shin Megami Tensei, and absolutely loved that game. That was another 120-hour game for me. So that was the FE, what's it called? FE Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
Right.
If you've seen that one.
No.
So
just words at the moment after this stuff.
So yeah, I love this stuff. I just love the over Japanesey stuff and getting lost in a game. Like I say, once you get into a game and it like really digs into you, you go to work and you're like, all you're doing is thinking at work. I can't wait to go home and play it. And then 120 hours just fly by.
Yeah, I've had that before. You just want to get off and you're doing other stuff. You just want to get home and get back to a game you've been playing, and it hooks you, doesn't it? You think about it. I've had it before. I've started work all day and thought about, I want to get home and play this, and keep checking my watch and do a bit of work and check my watch again, and like, I've got another 3 hours to go, and as soon as finishing time came, straight out the door and going as quickly as possible.
So what was the last game that like did that to you? Can you remember?
There was one. You what? Sorry,
I'm putting you on the spot for a change.
Yeah, that's a news one. There was one fairly recent. I can't remember what it was now. Oh man, I'm trying to see if I've got it on the shelf. No, I haven't. It's probably in the last 3 or 4 months or so where I played a game and thought I must get home and play that for a bit and come home and have my tea and come straight upstairs and put a couple of hours into it, and then I think that was it. I remember there was one years ago, and you'll laugh at this. It was Star Wars Episode 1: The Phantom Menace.
Do you know what? I don't know if I've played that or not. I was speaking to someone else about it who mentioned it on the PlayStation thing. And is it like sort of an isometric platformer a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's not great, but I rented it at the time, so far back. I rented it from a video shop. I took it home and I put it in the first night, and I was there from about 7 o'clock until about 11:30. I was just playing it. I thought, this is great. I thought, I've really got to get to bed here. So I turned it off and played it again in the morning before I went to work. We were talking about earlier. Went to work. I thought about nothing else all day. Couldn't wait to get home. Ran down when I finished work. Ran down the road to get the bus. Got home as quick as I could. Played some before tea. Had my tea, and then played it for about 3 hours. And then that was it. I was like, oh. And it just went. It just went like that. It went from being, I must play this game, to like, yeah, it's not as good as I thought it was.
Okay.
Yeah. That was weird.
I think because I think I played it, but I think I played it on the PC, not the PlayStation 1.
Yeah, I just remember.
I'm not sure if I played the same one or what.
I just remember being blown away by the fact it was, again, bits of the film were in there, and you got the trailer on the disc for the film, The Phantom Menace. The trailer was on there with the music from the battle. Can't remember what it's called. It was Dawn of the Fates, I think it was called, the piece of music by John Williams, which was in the film. The trailer just blew me away at the time. Anyway, I was like, wow, the trailer for the film's on the disc. It's great. I can watch that as well. And I just remember being mesmerised by it. But when I eventually played for about 6 or 7 hours, it's like, actually not quite as good as I thought it was. I was quite happy to take it back the next day, a day early. I thought, I'm not going to play that again. Yeah. But yeah, there has been one recently. I know I got sort of a bit addicted to it, but I can't remember what it was now. Memory of the Sieve.
There's one that I just played recently called Vostok Inc. And oh my goodness, that didn't think about anything else for like a whole week. And it's not even a good game or anything. It's just got that addictive nature to it because it's like a space sort of like shooter-ish where you go into a planet and then you colonize it. Then you go to the next planet, colonize that, and then in between you're shooting like all these aliens to get a bit more money, and then you go back to them planets and you plant factories and houses, and then you start getting more money through that, and it's like you're slowly building these like money paths that like build up constantly, and that was just so addictive. I couldn't stop playing it. Just find it like getting billions to trillions to quadrillions, like per second going into your bank. So then you could go back and like buy even more expensive stuff on more expensive planets. And I was like, honestly, I was late for work. I was late for work because of it.
Yeah. What are you like this morning? Oh, I was playing this game.
I was taking over the world. Sorry, the galaxy.
That's it.
Sorry, the universe.
I think I played Sega Rally a few months back. That was something which I would play the night before, come home, and then have my tea. And as soon as the time was right, I'm just go upstairs, play Sega Rally for a bit, and go and play 2-3 hours. But I tend now to sort of, if I put a game in, I'll play it for a long period of time. And I thought, do I want to play? Now I'll keep playing this for a bit and keep playing this for a bit. But I don't have that feeling now very often where I'm sort of sat at work thinking, I must go home and play that, or as soon as I get to the door, wherever I've been doing, I'm going to get on with that game. It just doesn't sit with me now.
It is getting fewer and farther between for me as well, to be honest. I don't know if it's just how I am at the moment or if it is, I don't know. I think it's just an age thing, isn't it?
I think I am scared to start some games. I think that might happen to me because
take over your life, you mean?
Yeah, because I don't really have that time now to do it. Especially when I've been out of work all day. It's a bit different from when I was gaming years ago when I was single, and that was the thing. Now, obviously, I've got a partner, and we've been together so long. It's like doing this. It's a lot of time takes out of my week doing a couple of these and do the things that we do as well.
Well, that's it. I think we end up talking about games more than playing them these days.
We do. YouTube. Yeah, we spend more time talking and collecting them than playing them. And that's the way it is. So there are other factors in my life which probably weren't there 20 years ago or 25 years ago, because we've been together 20 years, but 25 years ago, whereas I had that free time to do it, so I could come home and spend all weekend playing as I used to do. Games with friends or games on my own. I can't really do that now, and you can do 2 or 3 hours, and even then it's just like little stabs at things, not properly playing something through. But
I can't play for a whole day. There's no way I can do that. If I have a gaming weekend, it would be I'll play 2 hours of something, get up, mooch about for an hour, come back and then play it again. I can't do that solid block of playing anymore. Like I once did, even if I've got the time to do it, I just can't do it. Like I can't sit in that same place looking at that same screen for some reason. Every
holiday I get or time off I get, I always think I'll play some games. I'll set aside, a few hours here or a night here to just to go and play games. And you know what happens? Doesn't happen. It doesn't help. It doesn't make any difference what my plans are, what I think about doing. I never actually end up doing it. I might put a couple of hours in right at the very start and I'm thinking about it, but as the week goes on and I get to probably the Friday and the Saturday before I go back to work in the morning, I think, I've played no games again this week. I said I was going to play games. I played no games this week at all. What a waste of time that's been.
Well, that's it. I've had a week off, nearly a week off last week, and I thought, do you know what? I'm going to try and get my 52 game challenge nicely ahead. Complete one game that I started the week before, and I'm still nowhere near finishing the other game.
Failed miserably once again. Yeah, mate. We went with the same ones on this, and it's the way it is. You had more time when you were young. You had less commitments when you were younger, and it's just the way it is. Right. So let's then finish on your final game, which is the one we always say. The doom and gloom, the one that for some reason has managed to wash its way up on the shore or found its way in your luggage when you end up being marooned on this desert island. For some reason, you've absolutely no idea why it's there, but it's going to torment you.
Yep.
And it is.
It is. Everyone's going to hate it, aren't they?
Well,
it's not Breath of the Wild. Don't worry. It's kind of like similar but opposite at the same time. It's the Fallout series, the whole of them.
The whole series,
in particular, I think I've tried that the longest. Yeah, Fallout. I hate it. I love the idea. I think it's because I love the idea of it. I love sort of like post-apocalyptic. I can't really speak.
Apocalyptic.
That's the one. Thanks. I love that. I love games like that. But when I play this, it's just so drab and like, I don't know, lifeless. And I just don't like the look of it. And yet when I see all the trinkets, all the like kind of cool like things that you can buy, like merchandise for Fallout, I'm like, this looks so cool. I love that like Pit Boy and stuff like that. Love it all. But when I go to play it, it's like, I'm trying to play it like a first-person shooter, and you can't play it like that. It's like there's so many things that stop me from playing it. It's like I start getting into it, and then like I'll start shooting it. It's like I've missed. Why have I missed? I was like, I'm sure I should have hit there, and it's because you have like it's sort of like an RPG style, like a traditional one where like you don't see the dice rolls. That's what's happening, I think, isn't it?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Have you ever? I don't know if you've ever played it or not.
I've watched Mrs. Bear play a lot of Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, so I've got a vague idea of what's going on. And immediately I look at it, I think that is not my sort of game.
No, it's. I really want it to be though. That's why I hate it, because I want it. I want to love it, but I can't do it. I'll try my hardest, and it just ends up frustrating me, or it doesn't capture me. And I think Fallout 4 was the worst one for me because I was expecting like this next gen game, thought it was going to be brilliant, and it just, I don't know, the start of it was really cool. Like I loved like how you woke up in like a cryogen like thing, and then you woke up and there's like all this fallout that's happened, and the world is completely different. You started like ravaging through the houses, and then you got to the gameplay and I was like, oh, it's horrible. I hate it. I got to this one bit and I just couldn't get past it. I just couldn't do it. And I just like had to rage quit.
It's funny because when she was playing Fallout 3, she really got into it. So she immediately, when Fallout New Vegas came out, we upgraded to that one. And she didn't like that at all because it was a completely different game to Fallout 3. But when she had Fallout 4, she had to stop playing that because she hadn't got the time. I mean, we go back to time again. She hadn't got the time to immerse herself into it. Whereas when she's playing Fallout 3, she had more time on her hands.
Yeah.
And I think it's so she loved Fallout 4, but she had to stop playing it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you get too far into it. I've sort of played both, and it's just, I don't know. I don't get it. I just don't like that. I don't like RPG. You mentioned obviously an RPG element. I don't like RPG anyway. It's not my thing. I've tried playing it, and it's turn based. Just can't do it. just don't like it. You know, you take a go, and then somebody else takes a go. No, it doesn't work like that. You don't have a fight. Yeah, you hit me first, gone. You hit me, gone. There you go, punch. Right, okay. Now stand there. I'll hit you. They don't. It's not realistic. Sorry, it doesn't work like that.
Does it not? I thought it did. I thought every fight was just like by a roll of a dice. Got Saddam Hussein. He was in his bunker, just like rolling sixes until one day his luck run out.
Yeah, no, I just can't get on with them, and so I've never played this series. But you obviously got your reasons for.
I've tried it numerous times, and the thing is as well, like I mentioned that none of my friends really are into games. They play them, but not much. One of my mates, he loves Fallout, and when Fallout New Vegas came out, I can remember him taking a week off so he could play it, and then he got really frustrated because it was like not working properly or something. But he's really into the Fallout games. Whenever a Fallout game comes out, like proper over the moon and plays it for like 1,000 hours, and that's the only game that he would play for like a year or something. And it's like, and so I can see the appeal of it, and I want to like it. I really do. Like I say, that's why I think I hate it so much, because I want to like it. It's I get
that makes sense.
Things like that. If it's something that's just like a crappy game, what's the point of hating it? It's just it's forgettable. You forget how crap a crap game is. Where a game that is like you want more from it. I think that's the most frustrating thing ever.
No, I agree. Just very, very quick before we finish, you touched on there, your friend take the time off work to play New Vegas when it came out. Have you ever done that yourself?
No.
I have not. Oh, okay. That's all right.
Never done that. Never.
No.
Because as well, I think when I was younger, we didn't really have them release dates, did we?
No. That's very true.
And when we got older, I stopped sort of like pre-ordering games and stuff like that. There's only a few games I really pre-ordered. There was Tomb Raider, the original like reboot of Tomb Raider. I pre-ordered that because I couldn't wait for that to come out, and it was absolutely marvelous. But yeah, I didn't take time off to play it. Again, I think even though I was so excited about it, it still took me a week to play it. And I didn't have the backlog that I do now.
Yeah. Now I've done it once. I've done it once or twice before with the Championship Manager games. But that's because I was heavily into them. But I couldn't do something like that now. It just seems
take time off to play games and then never do it.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah. I have the intention of playing games. I should book a week off work and just sit on my backside watching cartoons, which is what I tend to do.
Yeah, that's my problem. It's like I think that's the problem sometimes when you got time off. It's like sometimes playing game feels like a bit too much effort, so you just put a film on instead.
Yeah, I'll really go all the way upstairs and I'll get that console out, put that one away, and because I tend to put I get one out at a time and put it away. I want to finish with it and then bring another one out rather than them all plugged in and because I just can't be bothered with that. And that's something it's half the hassle. And then what what system I want to play? I want to play that. Where are the games for it? Are there in another room? I'll go to the box. Oh, I'll do that. And then if I put a system on, it's like, what am I going to play? And you sort of stand in front of your games and going, well, I don't want to play that one. I don't want to play that one. What's that one like? I don't fancy it. By the time you've done that, you're half an hour. If you pick something you played before, I'll put that on for a bit. And then you're satisfied it and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think the best thing I've ever done for my game room is get an auto switcher box, scout box, like a big multiple one, because all the games systems are just ready to just turn on.
Yeah.
And
I could do that.
I know what you mean with like the setting up of things. I'd end up just playing one console at a time because I didn't want to change it, like the cables around and stuff like that, or reach over and try and press something, or this auto switcher, so everything is just there ready to turn on at a touch of a button. Best thing you can do because you're ready to play games then.
Yeah, I may, when I've sorted everything out, try and do something like that. I think that's what I wanted to do originally, but I just end up making everything look nice and pigeonholed, and then if I need to take something out, I'll take it out and put it away again afterwards. So, because the room's pretty small as it is, it's bad enough. I mean, you can see that pile of junk behind me, which is just sitting here at the moment. So we've got nowhere else to put it while the other room's being renovated, but there just simply isn't the room in here to do something like that anyway. So story for another time. But so there we go, which brings us to the end of your Desert Island Games journey.
Yeah, which has come to rescue me. I think he's going to take me off the island. Or maybe he's going to join.
But I mean that's been. I mean, compared to some other people I've had on here who I've known through YouTube, but I mean we've met each other in real life and we've known each other for a good couple of years, and there's things here which I found out which I wasn't aware of before, and which is always nice to know, because that's the whole point behind this, trying to understand people behind the channel and your history and how you got here, and there's some really fascinating stuff always comes out of this, and it's been brilliant to understand this and learn more about your history.
How I got here, how I'm still around.
But no, it's been great talking through some really good game choices, some really great systems, and again the passion and the memories have come flooding through, and it's been great to talk to you with that. So my thanks to you for coming on, Eddie, and doing that. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun. It's like 3 hours 20, just
3
flown
hours
by.
20, yeah. Which is seems to be the average at the moment, but it has flown by. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It has absolutely gone, and it's just been brilliant. As I said right at the very start, I'll stick a link to your channel in the description below in case anybody hasn't seen you on YouTube. If you haven't seen Eddie on YouTube, do go across and look at his channel, because he's got some amazing stuff in his collection. And he's a thoroughly nice chap to boot as well. And he's a very generous chap as well. He's given me a few bits and pieces over the years as well. I've got to thank you for that Capcom game the other day as well, actually. When which managed to get out of Danester's grubby mitts at the time.
No, it's I enjoy passing games on as much as like talking about them. So anything to get these games in other people's hands, isn't it? Really.
Well, I think this is what everybody loves about you is the fact. I know they sort of joke, "Oh, Eddie's been spending me money again," because you must buy this, you must buy that. But when you do make recommendations like that, everybody holds them in high regard because of that they know your passion, your belief for it, and what you're into. So when you recommend something like that, yes, we joke about the money, but you're actually giving somebody a recommendation and they're following that through, and that's shows the trust and the high regard people hold you in. So that's really good.
Yeah, I don't mind spending other people's money as well. Yeah, that's another hobby of mine.
Yeah, and you spend your own pretty well as well, I've got to be honest with you. So that's good going. Yeah, absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you so much indeed for your time for doing this. It's been great, and I'm sure we'll catch up again soon and talk about some other stuff on the podcast. We've got to get you back on the podcast, mate. We've got to try
hopefully not too much longer. I've got a replacement for me soon, and hopefully I'll be able to have more time to come talk to you chaps.
Yeah, because we do miss you on there. So people think we've fallen out or something, but we haven't.
Yeah, I've been working 50+ hour weeks for the last 4 months. It's we've just not had chance to cross paths, really, have we?
Not really. No, it's been a tough one, that one. But we'll get you back on there when we can sort all that out.
Yeah.
Plugging the podcast on my own podcast is really good, isn't it? So that's it for this episode of Desert Island Games. Once again, thank you very much to Eddie for giving up his time on this. We hope you've enjoyed listening to that. It's been absolutely fascinating. Do go across and check Eddie's channel out as well. There's some really good stuff on there, and a really nice guy to boot. And yeah, just remains to be say thanks to you for listening. If you have enjoyed this, please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and tick the bell for further notification videos. Don't forget there's a new episode of Desert Island Game going up every Saturday morning for the foreseeable future. We've got a few more guests lined up to be interviewed over the next few weeks. We'll keep churning these out as people love them. We know you enjoy listening to them, and it's always nice to get the feedback. So if you have enjoyed this, don't forget to leave a comment below. Until then, my thanks once again to Eddie.
Thank you.
And this is the Retro Bear saying thank you for listening. We'll see you again very soon. But until then, take care and bye for now.